Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku had time-traveling quirk part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below. And let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story lightningstormtc from 𝐴𝐿3. So let's start the video. Midoriya Izuku stood over the dead body of Shigaraki Tamura in a bitter victory. 20 years of blood, death, and war had led to this moment. The moment where they finally won. Midoriya fell to his knees and sobbed. There were no cameras pointed at him, no onlookers, no heroes, nothing. Everyone was gone, either evacuated or killed. Midoriya had nothing left. 36-year-old Midoriya Izuku was the only one alive in Hasu City. He damned himself for being so weak. He was strong, but not strong enough. Not strong enough to save Ochako, Todoroki, Kaken. They were all gone. Suddenly, Midoriya could feel one for all resonating inside him. He looked up to see a blonde figure looking down at him. No, it wasn't All Might. It was the one wielder Midoriya has not met yet. The first wielder of One for All. Hello, Midoriya, the first spoke. It was a gentle voice. A gentle voice that radiated justice. Congratulations for ending the line of All for One. It was for nothing, Midoriya shouted. He didn't care about who this person was. He had nothing left to lose. He was alone. All of his friends were dead. He had no reason to fight anymore. They're all dead. I know, the first whispered. Midoriya was taken aback by the sorrow in the first voice. That's why I'm here. I can give you a second chance. A second chance? Midoriya asked, curious. Again, he had nothing to lose. He would do anything to see them again. I can send you back in time, the first stated. With All for One gone, I can channel his power and grant one wish. You know what I'm going to say. Midoriya stood up, reaching his full height. He was as tall as All Might, his hair and his eyes black, which happened sometime during the war when he unlocked his 6th quirk. Just do it already. Very well, the first stated. I can only bring you in your adult form back. I will bring you back to the time when you're 6 years old. What happens next is up to you. Farewell. The first raised his hand as power started to form in front of Midoriya. He stared at the ever-expanding mass of energy in front of him before everything went white. Midoriya woke up in an alley in his hero costume with his civilian clothes underneath, just like always. His hero costume was a lot like how it was as a teenager, except for the fact it was pure black to complement his new hair and eye color. He took off his costume and walked out of the alley. The first thing he needed was an ID and a place to stay. He needed to decide on a name. Midoriya almost instantly knew what he would go with. 𝐀𝐦, the Black Sacrifice. It seemed fitting. Midoriya, no. 𝐀𝐦 chuckled to himself as he walked off. He needed to prepare to meet his younger self. He needed to train him. Prepare him for One for All. He could do this. He could save everyone. A couple years later, 𝐀𝐦 had solidified himself as the 24th top hero. He decided to go with the hero named Black Lightning, as his full cowl also adapted to his different color. He has only been using One for All, but he did have other quirks. He was moving into his new apartment today. He would be moving into the apartment next to the Midoriya's. 𝐀𝐦 wanted to keep track of his younger self and slowly ease himself into a stronger body, so he would be more prepared for One for All. He walked up the stairs and entered his new apartment. His boxes already there thanks to the moving crew. Now came the boring part. After 3 hours of painstakingly boring unpacking, 𝐀𝐦 decided it was finally time to meet his neighbors. He grabbed the plate of cookies he had baked in goodwill and headed to his next-door neighbor's place. He took a deep breath and knocked on the door. 𝐀𝐦 thought he would be ready to see his mother, but he was dead wrong. A wave of emotions hit him full force when the chubby woman opened the door. Midoriya 𝐬𝐭, 𝐀𝐦's mother. The one that was decayed right before his eyes by that monster Tamura. 𝐀𝐦 managed to keep a straight face as he looked down at the woman. Hello, he managed. After all these years, 𝐀𝐦 never managed to get past his social anxiety, especially when the numbers started thinning during the war. There weren't many people to talk to. I'm 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐨𝐭, your new neighbor. Please accept these cookies as a gesture of goodwill. 𝐴𝐻𝐸 smiled, practically melting 𝐀𝐻𝐸's heart. God, he missed this. Midoriya 𝐴𝐻𝐸, the woman introduced herself, gingerly taking the cookies from 𝐀𝐻𝐸. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm sure 𝐬𝐻𝐸 will love these. Speaking of which, I'll be right back. 𝐴𝐻𝐸 closed the door for a couple seconds before opening it again, a small, shy broccoli head in tow. The shy expression instantly morphed into glee as he looked at 𝐀𝐻𝐸. Oh my gosh, you're Black Lightning, he squealed, making 𝐀𝐻𝐸 smile softly. He was so small and adorable. Can I have your autograph? Sure, little man. 𝐀𝐻𝐸 knelt down and took out a small paper and pen he always had on him, considering he never had a mask on when he worked. He wrote down, never give up. Always follow your dreams. Black Lightning, and gave it to 𝐬𝐻𝐸. Here you go. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 squealed again as he ran off, probably to glue it into his journal next to 𝐀𝐻𝐸's entry, knowing him. I'm really sorry about 𝐬𝐻𝐸, 𝐴𝐻𝐸 said, a hint of pink on her cheeks. He's a huge fan of heroes. No problem, 𝐀𝐻𝐸 smiled softly at 𝐴𝐻𝐸. It's always nice to know that I inspire people to become the best versions of themselves. I'll see you around, Midoriya-san. I have to go patrol. With a small wave, he walked back to his apartment. 𝐀𝐻𝐸 didn't actually have to patrol at that moment. He just needed time to sort out his thoughts. Later that night, a huge, stony villain with oars for a body could be seen destroying the building of a lone shark. People were running in fear, but the ceiling collapsed, about to crush 2 people. Before that could happen, though, a flash of black and yellow zoomed by, saving the 2 people. I am here, Black Lightning and All Might shouted as one person in each of their arms. They placed the people down and let them run off as they looked at each other and smiled. Ah, Black Lightning, I've heard a lot about you. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. All Might shouted, smiling brightly. Pleasure's all mine, All Might-san. Black Lightning smiled at him before turning to the villain. But let's save the chat for after we deal with this villain. Agreed. All Might boomed as the 2 rushed the villain, Black Lightning punching the villain's gut and All Might punching his face. The battle was over before it began. The police are on their way, Black Lightning stated as he turned to All Might again and held out his hand. It's a pleasure to finally meet you, number 1 hero. All Might grasped his hand, the force causing the air to move around them. That's a mighty grip you got there, Black Lightning. Same with you. Black Lightning smiled as they shook and let go. I'm going to go back to patrols. I'll see you around. With a flash of Black Lightning, he was gone. 𝐀𝐻𝐸 was getting his mail when he saw a dejected 𝐬𝐻𝐸 walking past him. Is there something wrong, little man? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 looked at him with sad eyes. Do you think I can become a hero? What are you talking about? 𝐀𝐻𝐸 smiled at him. Anyone can become a hero, little man. What's your quirk? I don't have a quirk, 𝐬𝐻𝐸 said sadly. Of course, 𝐀𝐻𝐸 already knew, but he couldn't reveal that. That's why people think I can't become a hero. Bah, nonsense, 𝐀𝐻𝐸 boomed, his smile not faltering. Like I said, anyone can become a hero. Say, do you want to become a hero? 𝐬𝐻𝐸 looked at him, confused, then with determination. Of course. Meet me at the beach after school tomorrow, okay? 𝐀𝐻𝐸 knelt to 𝐬𝐻𝐸's height. It was time to start. If All Might wouldn't select 𝐬𝐻𝐸 as his successor this time around, he would be 𝐀𝐻𝐸's. 𝐬𝐻𝐸 will be getting a quirk. 𝐀𝐻𝐸 swore it. A hero needs a big, strong body to fight the bad guys. I'll talk with your mom, and we'll get that body of yours in shape. You can become a hero. Quirk or not, as long as you stay determined and follow your dream, anything is possible. You can't be a hero without a quirk. Midoriya's idol, All Might, right there, shot down his dream. Why don't you become a police officer? being a hero is dangerous. Being a hero can be very dangerous. The scrawny man sighed and went down the stairs. Midoriya stood there, a blank expression on his face. Even if All Might didn't believe him, he knew he had someone who did. Black Lightning, otherwise known as 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐨𝐭 𝐼, #7 hero, has been training his body and mind to become a hero. Midoriya followed his idol down the stairs and exited the building as he saw a crowd. Midoriya wormed his way through to see his childhood friend, Katsuki Bakugo, now being known as 𝐀𝐦, stuck in the slime villain that attacked him earlier that day. Without thinking, Izuku ran up and plunged his hand into the slime creature before tugging as hard as he can, pulling out 𝐀𝐦. Oi Deku, what the foo? 𝐀𝐦 was cut off when the slime monster grabbed both Izuku and 𝐀𝐦 and started to absorb the two as he started to laugh maniacally. As Izuku's vision starts to be enveloped by sludge, he could hear a voice yell, "Detroit Smash!" Izuku found himself free as All Might was there to save him. "Fucking Deku!" 𝐀𝐦 yelled at the boy, ignoring all the heroes standing around him. "I didn't ask to be saved. I don't need some quirkless loser looking down on me." 𝐀𝐦 stalked away, obviously mad before Izuku could protest. "What were you thinking?" Death Arms ran over to the boy to scold him. "Do you know how dangerous that was?" "I know," Izuku said calmly as he looked the hero in the eye. "I don't regret my decision at all. I saw someone who needed to be saved, and that's all that matters." All Might looked at Izuku in a whole new light as the boy walked away, a proud expression on his face. Izuku was walking home as he saw a familiar, scrawny man waiting for something. "Young Midoriya," All Might said, grabbing his attention. "Why, yes, All Might-san?" Izuku asked, the adrenaline high already gone, so it was back to the stuttering. What it is it that you need?" "You know, those actions you did earlier. Even though you were quirkless, you did what the top heroes would do." "Moving without reacting," All Might said. He looked at him, his black eyes filled with determination. "With a mindset like that, I'm sure you can be a hero. Meet me at the beach tomorrow morning." Izuku woke up early that morning and leaving a note to his mom that he was going to train with 𝐀𝐦. Of course it was a lie, but 𝐀𝐦 has approved of 𝐀𝐦 years ago, as he assured her that this would be only beneficial to him. Speaking of Black Lightning, Izuku was really excited to tell him about the events that transpired. But he was nowhere to be seen all day. Izuku saw All Might walking towards the beach as well. "All Might-san?" "Ah, young Midoriya," All Might said. He was in his scrawny form, as he didn't want to attract the press. "Let us walk to the beach. We need to start your training." Izuku nodded silently. He didn't know what 𝐀𝐦 would say, but he hasn't seen him and Midoriya just figured he would tell the bulky hero later. To the young man's surprise, he saw the #7 hero staring off into the horizon. "Hey, little man," he said as he turned around. "Ah, Toshinori-san, I take it you're here to train my student." "Why, you know he's—" Izuku started, but was cut off by 𝐀𝐦. "All Might's consultant," 𝐀𝐦 finished. "I've seen him a couple times while working with All Might-san. Anyways, I have some business to deal with. I'm still expecting to see you after school, little man." 𝐀𝐦 walked over to the pair and put his hand on Izuku's shoulder and looks at Toshinori with a soft smile on his face. "I never expected you to take on a student. I'm trusting you with him, okay?" All Might nodded, and 𝐀𝐦 smiled wider as he walked off. All Might looked at the man skeptically, but decided to ignore it for now. After all, he had a student to teach. 5 months later, it was time. The previous training that 𝐀𝐦 did with Izuku helped immensely, as Izuku's body was already well developed. As All Might hands Izuku his hair, he beams at him with that signature smile of his. "Be sure that no one learns that you got this power from me. There are a few people who know, but no one more should learn." "Does Black Lightning know?" Izuku asked. 𝐀𝐦 was practically the cool uncle Izuku never had. Izuku wanted to tell him, but he understood the dangers of that knowledge. "He does not," All Might simply stated. "After school, Izuku went to the beach to train with 𝐀𝐻 as usual. 𝐀𝐻 was standing, staring at the horizon, just like that day 5 months ago. He almost never does that. He only did that when All Might started teaching him. "Ano 𝐀𝐻-san?" Izuku asked, causing 𝐀𝐻 to turn around. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," 𝐀𝐻 said. "I'm just thinking about how I should help you with your quirk." How did you know I have a quirk?" Izuku sputtered. He had only gotten his quirk today. No one should have known about it. Not even 𝐀𝐦, or even his mom knows about his new quirk. "I have my ways," 𝐀𝐻 simply stated. "Anyways, that smash shit that All Might was teaching you. Don't do that. All Might was a prodigy with his quirk. Your body hasn't adapted to the quirk, so if you focus it on one spot and attack, you'll wreck your arms. Only use it as a last resort." How did 𝐀𝐻 know so much about One for All? All Might said 𝐀𝐻 shouldn't even know about, much less how to use his quirk. Before Izuku could say anything, 𝐀𝐻 continued. "Try focusing the quirk on your entire body. Think of it as like a buff in a video game. Try to control it, though. No more than, say, 5%. Any more as of now and your body will start to break under the power." Izuku had a lot of questions, but decided to try it out. He concentrated on the power deep inside him, and focused on channeling it on his entire body. His body started to glow and green sparks started to crackle around him. "Good, now try attacking me," 𝐀𝐻 said, his arms crossed. It wasn't uncommon for Izuku and 𝐀𝐻 to spar. Izuku dashed at 𝐀𝐻, but was taken by surprise by the force of the movement, and flew a few feet into the water as 𝐀𝐻 sidestepped and dodged his attack. 𝐀𝐻 snickered inwardly as Izuku dragged himself ashore. "You knew that was going to happen, didn't you?" "Yup," 𝐀𝐻 said, smiling. "Now we'll spend the next 5 months getting you familiar with your power at only 5%. No going further until I say so." Izuku sighed and called for the power again, preparing to attack his mentor. "All right, let's do this." After a couple hours of training, Izuku laid on the ground, panting as 𝐀𝐻 stood over him, no small amount of pride on his face. "Good job, little man," 𝐀𝐻 said as he offered Izuku a hand. As 𝐀𝐻 pulled him up, his expression went serious. "One thing that I need you to do is not tell All Might of my knowledge of One for All. If he finds out now, then we'll probably get into a whole den of trouble that we don't want to get into now. I promise I'll tell him, but I'll do it when I'm ready." Izuku nodded at 𝐀𝐻, and the tall man smiled again. "Now, let's get you to a shower. You smell like salt water and pain." Izuku chucked slightly and punched 𝐀𝐻's arm playfully as they started for home. 5 months later, it was time for the exam. Izuku was feeling confident about the exam. He had been training diligently with All Might and 𝐀𝐻 and managed to get to 6% full cowl, as 𝐀𝐻 had dubbed it. 𝐀𝐻 was equally shocked and proud at the young man's progress, saying that it wasn't normal for a wielder of One for All to make such progress. Whenever Izuku asked about how 𝐀𝐻 knew things like that, 𝐀𝐻 would just dodge the question and change the subject. Izuku may be imagining things, but it seems that 𝐀𝐻 hits a little bit harder during sparring sessions, where Izuku brings up the man's knowledge of One for All. Izuku's musings were interrupted by a stray rock as he trips on it. He prepared himself for impact, but that impact never came. He opened his eyes, and to his surprise, he was floating. "Release," he heard a female voice before he fell, landing on his feet. "Phew, that was a close one. Are you okay there?" Izuku turned around to see the one thing he feared the most. A girl. Izuku's face instantly went red as he started to stammer. Why, yeah. Thanks for saving me there." "No problem." The girl beamed, practically oozing positivity. "My name is Uraraka Ochako. What's yours?" "Relax, little man." Midoriya can hear 𝐀𝐻's voice in his head. This was something 𝐀𝐻 had taught him along with training his body. How to help his social anxiety. Girls are people too. They're usually very nice. There's no reason to be scared of them. Izuku knew that it was at least partially a lie, if Aunt Mitsuki had anything to say about that. He took a deep breath and smiled. I'm Midoriya Izuku, he said, returning a smile. It's a pleasure to meet you. Izuku was trying his best not to cover his ears. President Mike's speech on the exam was loud to say the least. Izuku could barely think, much less muse and mutter as he usually does. It was a blessing in disguise, though, as Uraraka had insisted on hanging with him because she didn't have any other friends. It wasn't that Izuku didn't like her company, as she was a great person. It's just that Izuku found it a miracle that he hasn't passed out yet after such prolonged contact with a girl. All right, are you ready? President Mike shouted to the crowd of teenagers as a loud cheer could be heard from the examinees. All right, then, start. Meanwhile, the staff watched in a designated area to examine the kids. Nezu, All Might, Lady Midnight, Eraserhead, and a few others were there, examining the students dashed off. This Midoriya kid seems quite interesting, Nezu states as the screen focuses on Izuku, who seemed to be rescuing participants in danger as well and destroying the robots. Do you think he knows about the rescue points? I don't think so, All Might states. I see it in his eyes. That boy is saving those kids because he wants to. Of course it was complete bullshit, but All Might knew his successor. He would rather just save people, points be damned. Before anyone could say anything further, the door opened, revealing a tall, muscular man with black hair and black eyes. He wore a black, one-piece uniform and a neck guard. He was known as Black Lightning, the number 7 hero in Japan. So, am I late? Izuku looked at his letter with anticipation. He didn't know what the passing or failing score was, but he was nervous out of his mind. Just open it, Izuku. His mother gently put a hand on his shoulder, an understanding smile forming on her lips. I know you did great. They would be out of their minds not to take you. Izuku managed a shaky smile and opened the letter when a hologram formed in front of them. Izuku's face paled when he recognized who the person on the other side was. Hey, little man, Kuro's hologram flickered as he smirked. Oh, hey 𝐸. Kuro-sensei, Izuku exclaimed. You work at UA? Kuro's hologram sighed. You should probably keep whatever response you have down, he chuckled a little bit. This is all pre-recorded. Chances are you just woke me from my well-deserved nap. I just know you too well enough to mess with you a little bit. Kuro made sure to emphasize well-deserved. Izuku shivered, feeling like he would be in for a world of hurt later that day. Anyways, you wanted to hear about the UA results, right? Kuro smiled as the two leaned in anticipation. You didn't pass. Izuku looked down, crestfallen. Before he could start moping, Kuro continued. You set the record for US entrance exam. Sure, All Might may have had a higher score on the practical, but his written exam scores were horrible. Izuku looked up at the hologram in shock. He had scored higher than All Might. With 46 villain points and 86 rescue points, you scored a 132 on the practical exam, scoring just 23 points under All Might, leaving you in second place in the history of UA, Kuro said, the pride glimmering through the hologram. Oh, yeah, there was a secret part of the exam. Did you really think that the practical was just based off kicking the crap out of robots? Nah, saving people is a part of being a hero too. Good job, little man. I'm proud of you. Izuku jumped and cheered loudly as he heard the news. He had passed. He not only passed, but he would be cemented in history as the closest score to All Might till the current day. Oh, another thing. Kuro's hand was hovering towards a button just out of view before he stopped. I ran into this girl while I was shopping the other day. What was her name? Urararara. Bah, I forgot. She saw us walking home together and asked me to thank you for saving her from that big, bad zero-pointer during the exam. Izuku's face turned beet red as his mother gave him a quizzical look. A girl? She asked teasingly. Why didn't you say anything? Mom, Izuku sputtered, looking at her with a betrayed look. It's not like that. Relax, I'm just teasing, the 𝐬𝐻𝐬 hologram said. But she really was thankful. You saved her when everyone else was too busy looking out for no one other than themselves. You really acted like a hero during the exams. I have no doubt in my mind that you will make a great hero. I'll be seeing you around. Your class is Class 1A. Don't forget it. With that, 𝐬𝐻𝐬 ended the transmission and left the Midoriyas to process the roller coaster that was Izuku's acceptance letter. Kai Chisaki, otherwise known as Overload, was sitting in his office, looking all menacing. He had it all: power, wealth, influence. Even those newfangled quirk erasing bullets. There was absolutely nothing that can go wrong at this point. Just as that thought flashed through his head, someone slammed his head on the table and slapped some quirk nullifying handcuffs on him. Kai Chisaki, the man said with a cold, authoritative tone. For crimes that I'm too lazy to list off, you are under arrest. How did you? Chisaki started, but was stopped when the man grabbed him and jumped out of the window, landing in front of a police car. The man handed him to the cops, and he was put in the back of the police car. The man turned around and started walking back towards the building. Black Lightning, one of the cops yelled after the man, now known to be the number 7 hero in Japan. What are you doing now? We've already got Overload. Me? Nothing much. The man let out a dry chuckle and stared at Chisaki with such malice. It caused the seasoned Yakuza to shudder. I'm just going to adopt a child. Izuku was writing down a continuation on Kuro Jisai, otherwise known as Black Lightning. Even though he was such a big shot, he was a complete enigma. No one knows the full capabilities of his quirk, other than he's fast, strong, and black electricity surrounds him when he activates it. He calls the quirk Black Lightning, but something seems off. Also his knowledge about One for All. It made no sense. How could he figure something like that behind All Might's back? It just made no logical sense. A knock on the door made Izuku jump, breaking him out of his trance. He walked over to the door and opened it to see 𝐬𝐻𝐬, but his quirk was activated, but only on his right leg. Hey, little man, he greeted with a smile. I wanted you to meet someone. Huh? Izuku asked, looking around, not seeing anyone. Who is it? I don't see anyone. She's a bit shy. Izuku paled at the dreaded word. She. Come on, 𝐸. Izuku is a nice guy. I promise. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 looked down to his right leg, and Izuku followed his gaze to see a small no, I'm not changing the spelling girl hiding behind his right leg, looking very scared. Izuku's face regained its color, knowing that 𝐬𝐻𝐬 wasn't trying to hook him up. I mean, Izuku would never put it past 𝐬𝐻𝐬 to invite a teenage girl for the sole reason of freaking his student out. He slowly knelt and looked at the girl with a soft, reassuring smile on his face. Hello. My name is Midoriya Izuku. What's your name? Midoriya asked in the most calming voice he can muster. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 always taught him that reassuring people was a vital part in a hero's job. 𝐸, Izuku made out. The girl was almost too quiet to hear. 𝐬𝐻𝐬. Yep, I adopted 𝐸 earlier today. 𝐬𝐻𝐬 beamed at the young girl, patting her head. 𝐸 looked as if she wasn't enjoying it, but she didn't smile. Not even showing a hint of one. She's had a rough life for someone so young, and I think what she really needs is a loving family and supportive friends. Izuku looked into the girl's eyes and his heart shattered. He saw something he's been all too familiar with in that poor little girl's eyes. Despair and hopelessness filled her big, red eyes. He tried to hide his pity and showed a friendly smile. Of course, he said, smiling at the young girl. I would love to be 𝐸's friend. Izuku stared at the huge entrance to UA High and gulped. He was going to such a prestigious school, with people like Black Lightning, Eraserhead, and freaking All Might working as part of the staff. Just a year ago, it seemed like a pipe dream for him to even be considered, and now he was one of the most promising students, according to what 𝐬𝐻𝐬 had told him. Izuku pinched himself, trying to convince himself that it was a dream. Fortunately, He didn't wake up. Izuku jumped when a firm hand grasped his shoulder. He turned around to see Q in an uncharacteristically bright gray suit with matching pants, a white dress shirt, and a green tie. He had Eri on his shoulders, supporting her with his other hand. "Don't worry, little man," Q reassured him. "As long as you don't freeze up on the girls in your class, you'll be fine." "Thanks, sensei," Izuku said dryly. He didn't understand why Q teased him so much about girls, but Q seemed to enjoy it, so Izuku didn't ask. Good luck, Izuniai," Eri muttered, firmly wrapping her arms around Kuro's forehead. In the couple months between Eri's adoption and the first day of school, Eri had improved when it came to talking to Izuku. But he hasn't seen the small girl smile yet, which uneased the young man. He doesn't know why the little girl won't smile, but it deeply concerned him. She is still barely able to talk to strangers, but it isn't impossible for her to make friends. With the gentle encouragement of Izuku and Q, she was able to meet 𝐀𝐦, and Eri has seemed to take a liking to her. Q has also been helping Eri with her quirk, whatever it was. Q claims she doesn't have much control over it, but he managed to help her to suppress its random outbursts unless she was put under a lot of stress. "Thanks, Eri-chan," Izuku smiled softly at the girl. "I'll become the best hero in the world. Just you watch me." "Well, you should probably get to class, Hiro-kun," Q said with a teasing tone and a smile on his face. "Today is Eri's first day of school, and I have to go meet her teacher. I'll be at UA by the time school starts. I'll see you at lunch, little man." Izuku nodded and Q held his fist out. Izuku held out his as well, and the two Izukus bumped fists before Q turned around and walked away. Izuku looked back at the huge school and took his first step towards heroism. Q found his way to the elementary school as Eri moved from his shoulders and snuggled up to him as he held her gingerly in his arms. In all honesty, Q was scared. He knew Eri had to learn how to talk to people, but he was kind of a doting father, and he doesn't like seeing Eri stressed or anxious. Room 3, room 3, Q muttered to himself as he scanned the doors, looking for the room, until he saw the number 3 plastered on the door right in front of him. Giving Eri a reassuring smile, the pro hero knocked on the door. He was aware he was about 45 minutes early, but he wanted to make sure whatever teacher she had knew about her situation, and so he can get a feel for the teacher. If the teacher was one of those morons who doesn't care for their students, Q would pull out within the week. Q concealed his shock surprisingly well as the door opened, revealing a young woman with white hair, streaks of red littering her snow-white hair. Q remembers Shoto's older sister Fayumi all too well. Fayumi was the one to take care of all the kids during the war, and was an emotional pillar to all of the heroes. Well, that was until Shigaraki decided to target the next generation. "Hello, miss," Q smiled softly at the young teacher. "My name is Q 𝐍𝐸, and I'm here for my student here, Q Eri." "Ah, it's nice to meet you." Fayumi's sweet smile filled Q with nostalgia of times when he, Shoto, and Fayumi would sit together and have soba. It was one of the few happy times in a bleak and desolate war. "My name is Todoroki Fayumi, and Eri-chan is on our roster. Is there anything I should know about Eri beforehand?" "Yes, actually." Q took an envelope out of his pocket and handed it to her. "This covers things in a bit more detail, but little Eri here has quite a hard life. She has trouble speaking with people. Just please, be patient with her." "Of course, Q-san." Relief washed over Q's face. He knew he could trust Fayumi. She was great with children. "I'll be sure to try my best to do what I can for Eri-chan." Q set Eri down and looked at her, smiling. "Hey, Eri-chan. I know school's going to be hard, but you have a good sensei here," he comforted the girl, who didn't necessarily look scared, but it was obvious that she was anxious. "If anything bad happens, remember the watch, okay? I'll be there in a flash." Eri nods at the man before giving him as big of a hug her tiny arms could manage. Q hugged back, repressing his inner doting father as to not embarrass himself. As he stood up, he looked 𝐲𝐬𝐬 in the eye. 𝐲𝐬𝐬 slightly stiffened as she tried to read the emotions shining in his eyes. Was that concern? No, it must be a trick of the light. Hey, Todoroki-san, the tall man started, pausing to think. Are you all right? Yes. 𝐲𝐬𝐬 answered, thoroughly confused. Why do you ask? Oh, nothing. Kuro smiled softly as he could almost hear the gears turn in the young woman's head. I'm a hero. It's my job to be concerned. That's all. With that, he put his hand on Eri's head and walked off. Deku-kun. Uraraka bounded over to Izuku as soon as she opened the door. She unfortunately discovered the nickname as 𝐀𝐦 was bad-mouthing the young man. I never got to ask. How do you know Black Lightning-san? I saw you two walking home with each other after the exam. Ooh, Izuku's face instantly turned into a tomato as the girl got dangerously close to him. H's apartment is right next to mine. Really? A red-haired boy walked up to the two, a huge grin on his face. That's so manly. How's it like? He's really cool. He's always been like the cool uncle I've never had. Izuku looked at the boy to distract himself from Uraraka. My name is Midoriya Izuku. What's yours? I'm Ejiro Kirishima. The two boys shook hands. It's really nice to meet you. As the two shook hands, the door slammed open as an all too familiar blonde stormed up to Izuku. Oi, shitty Deku, he shouted at the top of his lungs as he got right up in Izuku's face. How did you get a higher score than me? Before Izuku could open his mouth, a tall boy with glasses approached 𝐀𝐻 and held out his hand as a gesture to get him to stop. Excuse me, sir, he started. This isn't how you should be acting towards a fellow classmate. Shut the fuck up, shitty four eyes. As 𝐀𝐻 yelled to start a tirade, the door opened as the students feel an intimidating aura, instantly silencing the room. You're here to learn to be heroes, not to socialize and make friends. A ragged man with a weird scarf walked into the classroom and stood at the podium. I'm Aizawa 𝐲𝐸, your homeroom teacher. Meet me at the P area in 10 minutes. Kuro wandered his way into the P field at Ua High School. He was excited to see Izuku's result. Why? No particular reason. He was just curious to see how much he's improved versus his past self. Kuro was muttering calculations to predict how far the ball would go. Kuro-san, what are you doing here? 𝐲𝐸's voice snapped Kuro out of his muttering trance. Shouldn't be doing your job? I am doing my job, Aizawa-kun. Kuro beamed internally as he watched 𝐲𝐸's face twist in annoyance. I need to make sure you don't kill anyone on your first day. Kuro snickered as 𝐲𝐸 huffed and several of the students paled. Relax, kiddies, Kuro said, barely containing his laughter. He knew all these teenagers as battle-hardened heroes, jumping into combat with hundreds of nomas with the determination of an army. Not young men and women scared shitless by their teacher. Aizawa-kun won't kill anyone, I hope. I'm just here to see the next generation of heroes. You'll be sure to keep the kiddies alive, right? HN, 𝐲𝐸 grunted and turned around to continue his assessment. Now, we'll be doing the ball throw test. You will use your quirk to throw the ball as far as you can. Katsuki-kun, can you please go first? Fine, shitty teacher, 𝐀𝐻 muttered under his breath. Thankfully, 𝐲𝐸 couldn't hear it. But Kuro learned a few years back that concentrating one for all into his ears can give him super hearing. He never found use for such a thing during the war, but it was very useful for doing hero work. So Kuro almost always had it activated. A plus is that he could hear whenever Eri is in trouble, giving Kuro's doting father side a reason to listen out for things. Die, 𝐀𝐻 threw the ball, causing an explosion to push the ball even further. The ball flew with a smoke trail and landed somewhere in the forest. 703 meters, 𝐲𝐸 stated plainly as he then looked to Kuro. Since you're here, make yourself useful and go get the ball. Kuro grumbled something under his breath and zipped off in a burst of black lightning, returning a second later with the ball in hand, perfectly undamaged. As the other students went as their names were selected to throw the ball, Kuro spaced out, thinking about the war. As Kaminari went, he remembered the blonde hero emitting a huge wave of electricity in the center of an army of gnomes, knowing that his brain would be too fried to escape. As 𝐻𝐸 went, he could almost hear a pained shriek and see a concrete hallway fill with blue fire. Midoriya Izuku, Kuro almost responded before realizing that 𝐲𝐸 was talking about his past self. Kuro let out a shaky breath and shook his head, trying to rid his head of his bad thoughts. "Excuse me, Black Lightning-san." Kuro almost jumped as he heard someone speak his hero name. He turned around 13 to see Yaoyorozu Momo looking up at him, a shy look on her face. "Are you all right?" Kuro smiled at the young woman, remembering how kind she always had been, even during the bleakness of war. "Don't worry about me. Just thinking," Kuro said softly. "May I ask your name?" "Yaoyorozu Momo," Momo said softly. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Black Lightning-san." "Please, just call me Kuro." Kuro turned back to his younger self, smiling. "Pleasure's all mine." To Kuro's surprise, instead of throwing the ball, Izuku dropped the ball and kicked it with all his might, the green electricity filling his body. A loud boom could be heard as the ball broke the sound barrier and flew out of sight. 1358 meters, 𝐲𝐸 said, expertly concealing his shock. No one had sent the ball that far since All Might. As the tests continued and concluded, the flashbacks continued to haunt Kuro, but he was able to hide his emotions. He looked at the board with the results, and all his negative emotions were washed away as his eyes set on the top score. First place, Midoriya Izuku. Kuro smiled to himself. Perhaps there was hope for the future. No, not perhaps. This future will be saved. These kids will grow up safe and happy, Kuro vowed to himself, looking longingly at the students chattering excitedly. "I will make it happen. If it's the last thing I do." Katsuki Bakugo was your name, right? Kacchan thought back to what happened up to this point. Out of absolute nowhere, one of his idols, Black Lightning, a hero that he only puts All Might above, just approaches him out of nowhere. No prompting, no warning, nothing. "Yeah," Kacchan said, nervous. He knew when not to be a prick, and now was one of those times. "Is there something you need?" "Yeah, just wanted to talk," Black Lightning said nonchalantly, as if approaching random students at lunch was a thing he did on a normal basis. "Wanna eat at my office? I won't take up too much of your time." Kacchan nodded and followed Black Lightning to his office. What he saw when he stepped in was interesting to say the least. The table was completely empty, but that was probably the only orderly thing in the office. A large corkboard was on the wall, filled to the brim with messy papers and sticky notes. Papers were scattered all throughout the floor and Black Lightning's desk. "Make yourself at home," Black Lightning's deep, yet relaxed voice brought Kacchan's focus back to him. He put the meal the hag made for him on the coffee table and started to unpack and prepared to eat. "You know that kid you dubbed affectionately as Shitty Deku is my neighbor, right?" Kacchan looked like he was about to spit out food. He didn't even start eating yet. "Why would you tell me that?" Kacchan shouted. He knew when to keep his cool, but when someone brought up that shitty fucking Deku, he knew it was not the time to be chill. "I've heard a lot from Izu-kun," Black Lightning said simply. "I would like to talk about your relationship with the boy." "What do you want to know?" Kacchan yelled at him, still apoplectic. "He's a good-for-nothing piece of shit." "Do you know why he was able to beat you in both the exam and the assessment?" Kacchan froze. He was right. That stupid, quirkless Deku had beaten him in both the exam and the quirk assessment. It made absolutely no sense. Of course, he did manifest his quirk a little bit late. That's not the point here. The point is his attitude. You see, he's so fucking what about his attitude? Kacchan was done with this nonsense. He was done with people praising shitty Deku when he apparently had just gotten some stupid quirk. "It doesn't mean shit. He shouldn't be better than me." Black Lightning's stone-cold look made 𝐻𝐻𝐻 stop his tirade. "Look, you're strong. No one's gonna deny that," he started, his voice deadly calm. "But 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 has something you don't. Someone to look up to. A goal to achieve. Not like All Might. He is an amazing role model. But 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 had something else. Someone his age to look up to. He had a rival. 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 wouldn't have been half as motivated to get stronger if it wasn't for his rival figure. And that person, Bakugo-kun, is you." 𝐻𝐻𝐻 was floored by this. He was one of the reasons that Deku became stronger. Again, it made no sense. 𝐻𝐻𝐻 treated 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬 like shit, and that just made him stronger. "Now, I'm not here to sing 𝐬𝐻𝐻-kun's praises and piss you off," Black Lightning continued when he noticed 𝐻𝐻𝐻 hadn't started talking yet. "I'm here to advise you to do the same. I know that you don't necessarily like 𝐬𝐻𝐻𝐬, but if you just bully him and do nothing about the fact that he's getting stronger, you'll never become half the hero he will. You gotta keep up, man. Don't take this shit lying down. Keep training. You two can make each other stronger. Becoming a hero isn't about you, and it isn't about him. It's about saving people, and if you have to tolerate someone you don't like to become stronger and better and saving those people, then that's what you gotta do." Black Lightning stood up and walked up to 𝐻𝐻𝐻 and put his hand on his shoulder. "Katsuki Bakugo, you're destined for great things. You have so much potential, but your mind is closed off. You can only achieve so much without opening up and allowing others to help you. As a hero, you'll never be alone." Black Lightning took his hand off 𝐻𝐻𝐻's shoulder and walked to the door before pausing. "Think about what I've told you today. If you need any sort of help, please reach out. I'll help you in any way I can." Aizawa Shouta was having a rough week. Along with having a bunch of problem children, he had Kuro Jisai constantly shadowing his class. He didn't know why Kuro was so interested in him and his class, but it was really annoying. He would be there before class, laughing and chatting with the students, pulling out random students during class, and sometimes even randomly walk into the class and sit in, ruthlessly teasing the teacher as he tried to do his job. Shouta flopped on his bed. It was around 9 p.m., 4 hours until he had to start patrolling as Eraserhead. He decided to check his phone once before taking a nap. He was already tired out from his day job, and he just wanted a nap. Shouta opened his phone and checked his emails. It was mostly junk, but there might be something important there. After a few minutes of checking his email, he landed on a particularly interesting one. He tapped on it and started reading. To Eraserhead, All Might, Toshinori Yagi, Recovery Girl, Nezu, Gran Torino, Sir Nightai, 13, Maruko, Edshot, Hawks, Kamui Woods, and Best Jeanist from 𝐴𝐻𝐸 at Hiramail. Com subject. Vital info please read. Name: Shigaraki Tamura Affiliation. League of Villains Quirk. Decay. When Shigaraki places all 5 fingers of a hand onto a target, the target starts to decay, eventually leaving nothing but ashes. Targets can be both living and non-living. Name: Kurogiri Affiliation. League of Villains Quirk. Warp Gate. Kurogiri can make portals of varying size and quantity to any space he has either been to, or can visually see at the moment of creation. Name: Namu. Affiliation. League of Villains Quirks. Shock Absorption. Super Regenerations. You all are smart. You could figure them out. Very important info. Namu is not a human anymore. He died painfully as soon as the second quirk was injected into him. Recommended kill on sight. Weak spot is the brain. Between entries, there were incredibly detailed sketches of the 3 villains described. Shouta read the email a couple times over as several questions popped up in his head. First of all, if such important info was being distributed to such high-ranking heroes, why weren't Endeavor and Black Lightning not included? Also, why would this person stay anonymous? Who were they, and what did they want? How would they have this info? Shouta sighed as he turned off his phone. Today has been too eventful. He was done. It was time for bed. Kuro sighed as he looked at the to-do list that he had made himself. He checked out, send info of us invaders, and looked at the next one. Talk to 𝐲𝗏. God damn it. This was going to be a very delicate situation, but he had to do it. 𝐀𝐦 needed to be put in his place. The domestic abuse needed to stop. He sighed one more time before he stepped into Class 1A. What do you want? Kuro was greeted with the beautiful music known as 𝐬𝐡𝐬's grumbling. We've been over this. I just need to borrow 𝗃𝗃 for a moment, Kuro said cheerfully, knowing the topic he was going to talk to him about would be anything but. Todoroki, can you please come with me for a few minutes? 𝐲𝗏 nodded wordlessly and exited the room with Kuro, following him to his messy office. Your sister speaks highly about you. You know? 𝐲𝗏 froze. Why would he be bringing this up? Did this have something to do with that terrible man that barely had the right to call 𝐲𝗏 his father? What do you want? 𝐲𝗏's voice came out aggressive as the room literally dropped in temperature. Did my old man set you up to this? Well, I agree this is about your father. He did not set me up to this. Kuro sat down on his desk and returned 𝐲𝗏's gaze. I want to get him arrested. Arrested? 𝐲𝗏's deadly gaze softened as he tried to wrap his head around the situation. Why would you want to get a co-worker arrested? I couldn't give two shits about 𝐀𝐦. Kuro sighed and massaged his temples. Your father is a piece of shit for treating you and your siblings like that. And I owe 𝐓𝐢𝐬𝐬 one for treating my daughter so well. Did she tell you about this? 𝐲𝗏 asked warily. He didn't want someone he barely knew to step into family matters. But part of his was screaming for help. He hated 𝗫𝗏𝗏, and he wanted him to stop torturing his family. No, she didn't. You'd be surprised how much a few shots of whiskey can get out of someone, Kuro smirked. It was complete bullshit, but he was honest about 𝐓𝐢𝐬𝐬. She already had enough shit going on, and he didn't want to use her as a way to get into this mess. She doesn't even know what I'm planning. What do you need me to do? 𝐲𝗏 asked, cutting right to the chase. He didn't care how Kuro knew. He just wanted his father put to justice. Get a written report from each of your siblings about what 𝐀𝐦 has been doing to you guys and hand it in to me whenever you can, and I'll do the rest, Kuro said. Also make sure 𝐓𝐢𝐬𝐬 doesn't find out it's me behind this whole operation. Poor girl already has enough on her mind. Eri-chan can be quite the handful. 𝐲𝗏 nodded and Kuro smiled and stood up, putting his hand on 𝐲𝗏's shoulder. You're a good kid, Todoroki-kun, he started. I can tell you're going to go places. Not for him, but for you. Just know that here, you have friends. Your classmates care about you, and they would curse 𝗫𝗏𝗏's name if they knew what he did to you. You don't have to go through this alone. We're all here for why. Kuro was cut off by the alarms. He muttered something under his breath and looked at the young man. Go to your class, Todoroki-kun. Standard evacuation procedures. Kuro started to walk off. I have a meeting to get to. Everything was according to plan. Shigaraki Tamura and Kurogiri walked through the empty hallways, looking through each room to find the databases of 𝐬𝐻 High. The press has caught everybody's attention, and now they had the chance they need to swipe the info on where All Might would be the next day. As they turned a corner to another room, he saw something being tossed towards him. A pen drive. Shigaraki caught it and looked to where it had been thrown from. To his horror, he saw Black Lightning standing there, leaning on a wall with his arms and legs crossed. I'm not here to arrest you, Black Lightning stated, the fury present in his calm tone. The info you're looking for is in there. Why are you helping us? Shigaraki asked warily. Aren't you supposed to be a hero? Please, you would have gotten the info anyways. Let's not kid ourselves here, Shimoto-kun. Shivers went down Shigaraki's spine as he heard his birth name. I'm here to warn you. If you're going to go through with that plan, you will fail. We will kick your asses to Kingdom Come. Good to know, Shigaraki stated, scratching his neck. I'll turn you all to dust, then. With that, Kurogiri created a portal and teleported the two away. Kuro sighed and zipped away to meet the others. Shigaraki appeared in the next room over, heaving a sigh. Like hell, he was going to trust the info a hero gave him. He and Kurogiri continued their search, eventually getting the info they needed. While they were there, they decided to use the computer to check what was on the drive Black Lightning gave them. If it was a virus, Yua would be the one to suffer. To their surprise, it was actually the info they wanted. Where All Might would be the next day. Shigaraki huffed as he ordered Kurogiri to take them back to their hideout. Izuku Midoriya was anxious. He had a field trip today, but he didn't know where or what they would be doing. He was happy to have friends now, but also perplexed as Kaken didn't seem to bully him as much. It was still there, but Kaken wouldn't rag on his nearly as much as usual. Uraraka, as bright and cheery as ever, didn't really know the meaning of personal space, causing Izuku to almost faint whenever she would give him a hug. Kirishima also proved to be a great friend, as well as he, Midoriya, Kaminari, and Shiro would often go to the arcade together after school. Izuku was on friendly terms with almost all of his classmates. All of them except Kaken for obvious reasons and Todoroki Shoto. He didn't know why he couldn't approach the young man. But he was always so quiet and cut off from reality. Izuku couldn't seem to talk to him at all, no matter how much he tried. A tap on the shoulder made him jump and yelp. A tick appeared on his forehead as he heard Kuro's loud, booming laughter from behind him. "What do you want, Kuro-sensei?" As he turned around, Kuro's face became serious. It was unsettling. Kuro was almost always this easygoing and relaxed man. Seriousness didn't fit with him. "Take this, Izuku," Kuro said, handing him a wristwatch. "See that red button on it? If things go wrong, press it. I'll be there in a flash." Izuku nodded, and Kuro's door opened, revealing an adorable Eri with her hands on the straps on her backpack. Her usual shy face replaced with a look of determination and will. Kuro beamed as he picked up the young girl, her determined face morphing into shock as she whined in protest. "Dad, I'm big now. You don't have to carry me to school anymore." "Just because I can't doesn't mean I won't, little lady," Kuro smiled at the girl. "Now, let's get you two to school. After all, the both of you have a big day ahead, Deku-kun." As soon as Izuku opened the door, he was greeted with Uraraka flying over to him using her quirk, quickly wrapping her arms around him. "Are you excited for the field trip?" Uraraka-san." "Too close," Izuku sputtered, his face tomato red and his arms flailing wildly. "Ah, I see my little man already has gotten himself a girlfriend," Kuro mused, stepping into the room, patting Izuku on the back. "I knew you were attractive, but I didn't think you'd be such a ladykiller, Izuku-kun." At those words, Uraraka instantly slid back several feet, her face just as red as Izuku's. "Kuro-san, it's not like that." "No need to be shy, children," Kuro snickered. "I'm sure you and Inko would get along swimmingly." "What are you doing here anyways, Kuro-sensei?" Izuku asked the older man. "Don't you have security stuff to be doing?" "Oh yeah, I'm chaperoning your little field trip," Kuro said. Apparently an outside source warned Nezu to be on the safer side with this field trip. There's a chance something might happen. Even if it's low, Yua doesn't want to take any risks. "Ah," Izuku said to himself as Ita walked into the classroom. He instantly noticed Kuro and Brisk walked over and bowed. "It's a pleasure to see you again, Black Lightning-san," Ida practically shouted. "May I ask what reason you are visiting today?" "For the last time, Tenyi-kun. Call me Kuro," Kuro said softly. "Also, I'm going to be coming with you on your field trip and make sure everything goes fine." Before Ida could continue, Kuro walked over to Momo, who was shifting uncomfortably in her seat. "Nervous, Yaoyorozu-chan?" "Ah," Momo looked up at Kuro. "Just a little bit." "Don't sweat it," Kuro smiled softly at the girl. "You're a very capable young woman. Whatever happens, I'm sure you can deal with it." Thanks," Momo blushed slightly at the praise. A lot of the WANA students were still getting used to such a high-ranking hero popping in and talking so casually with them. It seemed surreal to the teenagers, even more so than All Might, because he was always out and about. 𝐀𝐦 always seemed to be open and free to talk to the students, constantly dropping by to say hi and to check in on the students. 𝐀𝐦 then turned to see Shoto handing him an envelope. "Here's what you asked for, 𝐀𝐦-san." 𝐀𝐦 took the envelope before zipping off and returning within a second, the envelope nowhere in sight. "Thanks, Shoto. I'll see that this gets processed immediately." For the first time ever, Izuku saw Shoto smile, even if it was only the faintest bit. Izuku was perplexed at 𝐀𝐦's charisma, being able to strike up a conversation and work things out seemingly out of nowhere. "Hey, 𝐀𝐦-san," Kirishima called the hero over. "I challenge you again." 𝐀𝐦 smirked and walked over and knelt down, clasping his hand with Kirishima's. The entire class crowded around as Kirishima and 𝐀𝐦 engaged in their daily arm wrestle. After a couple seconds of struggling, 𝐀𝐦 slammed Kirishima's fist on the table. "You've been improving, Kirishima-kun," 𝐀𝐦 said happily. "Maybe someday you'll actually beat me." "You bet," Kirishima whooped. 𝐀𝐦 then turned to Gyro and handed her a few sheets of paper. "Gyro-chan, your old man told me you played bass. We still jam every now and then." 𝐀𝐦 smiled at the girl. "Here are a few tabs that I thought you would be interested in." "Thank you, 𝐀𝐦-san," Gyro mumbled, neatly putting the music in her backpack. Before 𝐀𝐦 could talk to anyone else, Shoto walked into the room. "All right, we're going to be doing rescue training at 𝐡𝐤 today. The buses are already in the lot. Be out there in 5 minutes." The kids excitedly filed out of the classroom and 𝐀𝐦 snickered as he felt Shoto's glare on him. "Ni, 𝐀𝐦-san," Ashido Mina said, getting 𝐀𝐦's attention from the paper he was writing on. 𝐀𝐦 opted to sit with the kids rather than Shoto. "What's it like being so popular?" "Terrible," 𝐀𝐦 replied honestly, and the small group of students chuckled. The group consisted of Izuku, Uraraka, Tsuyu, Yaomomo, Kirishima, Kaminari, Mina, and Hagakure. "Sometimes, I'm just trying to live my life. Then the press comes swooping in, begging me for interviews." "Hey, Deku-kun." Uraraka poked Izuku's cheek to get his attention, causing the broccoli boy to turn red. "Why do you call 𝐀𝐦-san sensei?" "Oh, you didn't know?" Izuku asked honestly. "My quirk manifested late and 𝐀𝐦 taught me how to control and utilize my quirk." "That's so manly," Kirishima exclaimed. "Hey, do you think we can all get lessons like that?" Wouldn't that be too much?" Momo asked the boy. "He's already really busy and—" "Nonsense," 𝐀𝐦 boomed. "I'd be willing to help any of you, but my lessons are really tough. I'll make you wish you didn't ask." "So manly," Kirishima exclaimed again. "My body is ready." The group laughed at that statement as the buses stopped. "All right, let's get to it. We don't want to be late for 13-san," Shoto said, and the students filed out into the buses and into the unforeseen stimulation joint. 13 was already there to greet them. 𝐀𝐦 and Shoto walked over to stand on either side of them as 13 started their speech. "Today, you will be learning to use your quirks for the sake of saving lives," 13 started. "Quirks are very versatile and can be used in many different ways. But as heroes, our main priority is saving the lives of the people. Today, you will be coming up with ways to use your quirk to adapt to various situations. We will split you up into groups, and you will be tasked with finding ways to save certain targets." As if on cue, as soon as 13 finished their introduction, a warp gate opened and about 100 villains stepped out, led by Shigaraki, Kurijiram, and Namu. "Villains!" Shoto yelled as he got into a fighting stance. 13, protect the students. Black Lightning, with me. Tenya-kun, go warn Nezu that villains are attacking 𝐡𝐤. They likely jammed our signal, so we can't call for backup, 𝐀𝐦 ordered. When Ida hesitated, he continued. "We'll cover you. You're the only one who can do this. Now go." "Ah, sucks that All Might isn't here," Shigaraki said, scratching his neck. I wonder if he will come if we killed the kids. Not on my watch. Kuro appeared in front of Shigaraki and kicked him in the face, sending him flying. He dashed for Kurogiri, but a portal appeared in front of him. Another portal opened up in the sky a couple kilometers away, and a loud crash followed by a huge cloud of dust could be seen. 𝐬𝐡𝐬 dashed in, jumping into the middle of the small army, his goggles on. He punched and kicked his way through many of the small fries in a deadly dance of attacks. 13 huddles the students and tries to get them to follow Ida. But Kurogiri opens a gate and steps in front of them. We are the League of Villains, Kurogiri starts. And we're here to kill All Might. Before any of the students could do anything rash, 13 points their finger at Kurogiri and opens their black hole. As Kurogiri opens 2 portals to use 13's quirk against them, Kuro dashes in and grabs 13, manually closing their finger before setting them down. With the kids unguarded, Kurogiri takes the opportunity to open various portals to scatter the children. Izuku and Tsuyu fall into the flood zone, landing on a cruise ship. One of the villains jumps up and tries to bite off Tsuyu's top half, but Izuku rushes in and punches the villain, sending him flying back into the water. Thank you, Midoriya-kun, Tsuyu says shyly to the boy. What do you think we should do, Kiro? We don't know their quirks or how many of them there are, but I would think that they would be underestimating us, Izuku started. What is your quirk? We need to come up with a plan to get out of here. My quirk gives me the properties of a frog, Kiro, Tsuyu explains. I can jump really far and my tongue is really long and can grab onto things. Izuku mutters a little bit, and then he has a revelation. Tsuyu-san, can you grab me with your tongue and jump as far as you can? I can use the air pressure from my quirk to get us to fly higher. Tsuyu pauses and thinks before nodding. Tsuyu wraps her tongue around Izuku and jumps. By the looks of it, they can only make it halfway there. Izuku mutters for a bit until a shark-face villain leaps out at them. Without thinking, Izuku channels as much of his quirk as he can into his arm and punches the villain. The sheer amount of power and recoil launches the two into the air and sends them flying much farther than they needed to go. Izuku winces in pain as he realizes his right arm is completely busted. 𝐬𝐡𝐬 finishes the last small fry villain before staring down Shigaraki Tamura. You must be the leader, huh? I guess you can say that, Shigaraki says as 𝐬𝐡𝐬 charges him with his scarf. Shigaraki grabs the scarf, decaying a good chunk of it. Namu. A hulking monstrosity appears behind 𝐬𝐡𝐬, about to throw a devastating punch before being hit by a flash of black lightning. Your opponent is me, you fucking monstrosity, Kuro growls deeply as the Namu stands up. Kuro and Namu rush each other, engaging in a furious flurry of punches before Kuro kicks Namu in the face, sending him flying. Kuro then jumps up in the air and floats. He then smashes the Namu to the floor and rocks down, punching the huge beast right where the brain is, crushing it before throwing it out the window. Damn, that was a failure, huh? Shigaraki mumbles as he places his hand on 𝐬𝐡𝐬's shoulder, managing to decay the shoulder a little bit before being kicked away. Kurogiri, we're leaving. Shigaraki jumps away as Kurogiri appears behind them. No, 𝐬𝐡𝐬 shouts, leaping at them, but it was too late. Kurogiri opens a warp gate, and the two vanish, closing the gate behind them. Almost instantly after they vanish, the window breaks as the #1 hero jumps into the scene. I am here, he shouts before looking around, confused. Where are the villains? Kuro walks over to the two heroes, bruises along his face and arms. We dealt with them. They got away right before you got here. All Might's smile wavers but stays strong. At least the situation was handled. As more heroes and the police appeared, they started checking for injuries. Almost everyone was uninjured, save for Midoriya's arm and 𝐬𝐡𝐬's shoulder. At the sight of Midoriya's arm, Kuro walked up to him and swatted his head. You idiot, Kuro exclaimed angrily. I told you not to go 100%. Now look what happened. Tsuyu walked up to the two meekly and spoke up before Izuku could say anything. Kuro-san, Midoriya-san saved me, she said meekly. If it weren't for him, I'm not sure if I would be here. Kuro's expression softened as he smiled down at the boy. I'm sorry, little man, I didn't know that. He put a bruised hand on Izuku's head, ignoring his moans of protest. I'm proud of you. Now get yourself to Recovery Girl and pray that there isn't any permanent damage. As Kuro walks away to go check on the other students, All Might looks at him suspiciously. He overheard their conversation, and something was off. How did he know about Izuku's quirk drawing back like that? He has never been injured like that before, and by all means, he shouldn't know that his body isn't used to his quirk yet. Something was definitely off, and All Might was ready to find out what. Todoroki and G almost set the court papers who received in the mail that day. It claimed that he was being sued for illegal quirk marriage, child abuse, child neglect, domestic abuse, and multiple other crimes. What crimes could NG be accused of? He was just raising his kids how he saw fit. Apparently, the stick up his ass went so far, he didn't even realize what was wrong with him. He stormed in each of his kids' rooms, demanding to know if they had anything to do with it. Fayumi and Natsuo were absolutely floored, while Shoto just responded no in his normal monotone voice. NG was throwing a hissy fit in the training room, fire dancing around the room. Out of all the stuff he's dealt with, he's never been sued. Little did he know, he was digging his own grave by throwing a hissy fit instead of gathering evidence, if there was any, to prove his innocence. Kuro sighed as he entered an alleyway. He wasn't well versed in the workings of villains, but he knew that alleyways were a great center of crime. He checked his journal and looked up. Around this time, 𝗵𝗲 and Toga should have teamed up by now. A plan started to formulate in his head as Kuro slipped his journal in one of his abnormally large pockets. He came in his civilian clothes instead of his hero costume as a gesture that he only wanted to talk and not to fight. Since he didn't wear a mask, he was just as recognizable. But Kuro had his ways of traveling under the darkness of night. Kuro dug into his pockets and peeled out a switchblade. He made a cut on his arm and rolled up his sleeve before dashing through the elaborate maze of alleyways. His goal was to get Toga to catch his scent and give chase, because at this point in time, wherever she went, 𝗵𝗲 probably followed. Sure enough, a couple minutes in, he saw a blonde figure rushing towards him. He figured that since there still wasn't much info on him to go around, Toga wouldn't know anyone actually close to Kuro. She wouldn't bother with a disguise. As far as the public was concerned, Kuro saw every other hero as just a colleague. Kuro held out his right hand and a shield materialized, strapping itself onto his wrist. He held out the shield and blocked Toga's attack before thrusting his left hand towards her, a black tendril extending and incapacitating the young girl. Kuro then jumped over her, spinning and landing in front of Toga, holding up his shield just in time to block a torrent of blue fire. Ah, 𝗵𝗲, Kuro said in a mock gleeful tone as the scarred man paced into the light. As much as I want to arrest you two right on the spot, I have rather important business to talk about with you. What would a hero like you want with a villain like me? 𝗵𝗲 sneered. I have half a mind to incinerate you right now and leave with my partner. You're right. I'm not here to make business with a villain codenamed 𝗵𝗲, Kuro smirked, lowering his shield. I'm here to make business with Todoroki Tauya, son of Todoroki and Ju. How the fuck do you know my name? 𝗵𝗲 screamed, a torrent of blue flames soaring towards the hero. Kuro simply held up his shield again, blocking the flames. Relax, dude. I'm not here to blackmail you or anything, Kuro said, the calmness in his voice not wavering. I need your help in getting your father behind bars. Behind bars? 𝗵𝗲 stopped his attack as he tried to process the information. Why was a hero trying to arrest another hero? It doesn't make all too much sense. Why would you want that? To be completely honest, your dad is a prick, Kuro sighed. ignoring Toga's squirming and comments about his blood. "Look, man, what he did was fucked up, and I want to give you a second chance. I'll give you and your partner here a chance to walk free once again. We'll put your shitty father behind bars, I'll pull some strings and create some new identities for you too, and I'll personally meet any demands that I can. Sound like a deal?" "What makes you think that you can trust us?" 𝗵𝗲𝗍 sneered. "We'll just turn around and stab you in the back as soon as we receive our compensation." "Simple," 𝐀𝐦 stated. "I don't believe you two are bad people. Just two misunderstood misfits of society backed into a corner and forced to take desperate measures. If you try to stab me in the back, so be it. I'll deal with that when the time comes, but I want to trust you two. I want to believe that people can change for the better, and so I will. Until proven otherwise, I choose to gamble and place my trust in two ranked villains." 𝗵𝗲𝗍 stepped back, a shocked expression on his face. He took a couple moments, considering his options. "I'm in," he decided. "But don't think we're going to be all buddy-buddy after this whole fiasco blows over." "Perfect." A gleeful smile formed on the bulky hero's face. "Here's what we are going to do." 𝐀𝐦 opened the doors to the courtroom, a huge scowl on his face. He knew his kids were going to be there because of the charges brought up, but he was confident that they would speak in his favor. Again, the stick up his ass was so unbelievably far that he didn't notice what he did wrong. As he turned a corner, he was shocked to see that the number 7 hero, 𝐀𝐦, otherwise known as Black Lightning, was standing there, taking a sip from a water fountain. "Black Lightning!" 𝐀𝐦 exclaimed in shock. "What are you doing here?" "Isn't it obvious, 𝐀𝐦-kun?" 𝐀𝐦 practically spat out 𝐀𝐦's name. "I'm suing you." "What the fuck?" 𝐀𝐦 raised a fist to attack the hero, still bent over, calmly taking a drink. "Why the fuck are you doing this?" At that, 𝐀𝐦 stood up, now becoming eye level with 𝐀𝐦. "You shouldn't attack people in court. It'll hurt your case," he said seriously as his gaze bore into 𝐀𝐦. "Did you really think I would let the abuse of one of my students and the teacher of my daughter continue if I could do something about it?" When 𝐀𝐦 paused, 𝐀𝐦 took it as a cue to continue. "Oh, wait. You didn't," he sneered, every word filled with as much venom as the sludge villain who almost took his life all those years ago. "After all, what do you know about family?" The flames of 𝐀𝐦's facial hair intensified as anger boiled up. 𝐀𝐦, however, appeared to be perfectly calm about the situation. "See you in court, 𝐀𝐦," he muttered softly as he walked away. The sound of wood smashing on wood rang throughout the courthouse, marking the beginning of the session. "Court is now in session," a familiar bald judge with an absolutely scrumptious beard announced. "We will now hear the defendant's case." 𝐀𝐦's lawyer stood up and started to talk about how 𝐀𝐦 was just raising his kids, the way he saw fit, as 𝐀𝐦 narrowed his eyes at his opponent. 𝐀𝐦 apparently didn't even care to bring a lawyer. Either the man was so confident in his evidence and speaking abilities to win without one, or he was a lawyer himself. Considering how much time hero work takes up, 𝐀𝐦 theorized that the first case was more likely. He scoffed, internally mocking the man for his astronomical amounts of pride. "If I may, Your Honor," 𝐀𝐦 raised his hand. "I do have video evidence of crimes accused." "Very well," the judge said. "Let's see it." 𝐀𝐦 smiled as he handed the judge a pen drive, full of years' worth of domestic abuse and child neglect. The entire court gasped as the footage was played. One would think 𝐀𝐦 sat on his ass and did nothing for 8 years, but he wasn't. He was compiling evidence to use against 𝐀𝐦. "You fucker," 𝐀𝐦 yelled, standing up and placing his hands on the desk. "Did you put cameras in my house? How did you get that footage?" "Actually, it was me," 𝐀𝐦 paled as a familiar voice spoke up. A man with spiky red hair walked over to the podium where the witnesses were to speak. "Your Honor, since we were about to get into the witnesses' accounts, may I start my account?" "Oh, of course," the judge stammered. Technically, it wasn't against any rules for the man to speak up when he did. For all he knew, He was just defending the truth. Todoroki 𝐻𝐸, you may state your claims. I actually placed the cameras in the house a couple years before I ran away, he stated, glaring daggers into his father, who just looked at him in shock, his face pale as a sheet. I was actually planning on suing the man myself for these exact charges when I acquired the money, but obviously things didn't go as planned. 𝐻𝐸 lost his cool and shot a blast of fire at his son. Before the fire could connect, Kuro intercepted with crossed arms, leaving behind some nasty-looking burn marks. Remember what I told you, 𝐻𝐸. Kuro smirked as 𝐻𝐸 just realized what he did. That is enough. I believe we have seen enough evidence. The judge pounded his hammer onto the wood. Todoroki 𝐻𝐸, I declare you guilty of child abuse, child neglect, and domestic abuse, along with illegal Quirk marriage. Your sentence will be 10 years in prison with no parole. A few hours later, Kuro could be seen in a bar, downing a shot of hard liquor. A man and a girl walked over and sat next on either side of him. I'll take a shot of Fireball, please, the man said. And I'll take some cherry Coke for the young lady. The bartender grunted as he went to prepare their drinks. Are you sure it was cool to disappear on your siblings like that? Kuro asked. They were looking for you for hours. You know, I felt kind of bad. Shut the fuck up, 𝗳𝗲𝗿 muttered as he took the glass the bartender gave him and downed it in one gulp. Let's get this shit over with. Fine, fine, Kuro waved his hand dismissively. What are your terms? Ooh, Toga raised her hand excitedly. I want to live with Kuro-san. I really want to taste his blood, 𝗀𝗧. I have nothing against something like that, but your partner over here, Kuro pointed at a scowling 𝗳𝗲𝗿, would have something against it. Ah, Toga looked genuinely sad at the revelation. 𝗳𝗲𝗿 flinched. He saw Toga as a daughter figure, and he always hated seeing her sad. How about a compromise? Kuro downed a shot of whiskey. Our neighbor is actually going to be evicted for failure to pay rent, not the Midoriyas. You can move into the apartment there. I'll pay for your living expenses for 8 months. How does that sound? 𝗳𝗲𝗿 was about to say no, but upon looking at Toga's excited face, 𝗳𝗲𝗿 sighed in defeat. Fine, whatever, he mumbled. I want Toga to go to school, though. And I need you to get me a job. Kuro stared at the table, muttering to himself softly before looking up to 𝗳𝗲𝗿. You know, there's actually an opening in the hero course. Maybe I can. Are you sure you want to do that? 𝗳𝗿𝗿 asked, looking at the man as if he were insane. Of course, Kuro smiled. Again, I trust you two aren't bad people. I'll find ways to circumvent 𝐻𝐸𝐬's cravings, and I'll be sure no one gets hurt. It's my job as head of security, after all. Yay, Toga squealed. She seemed more excited to go to school and meet kids her age rather than joining a hero course. Kuro wasn't even sure if she cared. Fine. 𝗳𝗿𝗿 admitted defeat yet again. What about me? I could always enlist you in my agency, but, Kuro emphasized the but, as he saw 𝗳𝗿𝗿 glaring daggers at him. I know you wouldn't like that. I know a couple bartenders that owe me a favor. Since you frequent bars so much, I figured you would do well in one of them. Wait, how do you know? 𝗳𝗿𝗿 started, but then considered who he was talking to. He was talking to Kuroji-sai, the man who seemed to know everything. Of course he knew that 𝗳𝗿𝗿 was an alcoholic. You know what? Forget I even asked. Pleasure doing business with you, Kuro-san. With that, the two men shook hands. Izuku groaned inwardly as he heard a knock on the door. Ever since he started UA, knocks on the door turned out to be disastrous for the young man. Inko had gone out early to get groceries, so Izuku won't have anyone to save him from whatever shenanigans Kuro had in store for him. He opened the door to see Kuro with two people. The first he recognized to be Todoroki 𝐻𝐸, as Endeavor's court case was televised nationally, and a blonde girl, seemingly around Izuku's age. Morning, little man. I wanted you to meet our new... Kuro was cut off as the girl threw herself at Izuku, tackling him to the floor. Oh my god. You smell so good. Tilda, the girl squealed, a maniacal grin on her face as she stared at Izuku as he started to blush. Hey, can we be friends? Pleasey. Tilda, I'm-san, please don't get too close. He's shy with girls. Kiro winked at Izuku as he pulled the young lady off of him. Izuku shot Kiro a dirty look and Kiro chuckled and winked at his younger self. Anyways, this is Todoroki Tauya, and this is Himiko Toga. They moved in next door not too long ago, and Himiko is going to be transferring to Class 1A as of today. Sup? Tauya looked generally unamused as he stared at a wall, his hands shoved in his pockets. He seemed irritated about something, but Izuku couldn't put his finger on what it was. Hey, Izuku said nervously as the color on his face started to turn back to normal. My name is Midoriya Izuku. It's nice to meet you. Ni, Midoriya-kun. Can we be friends? Toga asked excitedly. Izuku noted that Toga was excited of the prospect of having a friend, as if she's never had one before. Sure, Izuku forced a smile. It wasn't that he disliked the girl, he was just really nervous. As confident as he came off during the Usji incident, Izuku was still struggling with his anxiety. I would love to be your friend, Himiko-san. Yay, Toga squealed, hugging the young man tightly. Izuku yelped in surprise, his face turning tomato red yet again. Now, Kiro said, trying to de-escalate the situation before Izuku fainted. Let's get you two to school. I have to show Tauya to his new job. Tauya scoffed as Kiro pulled Toga off Izuku, and with some gentle prodding, they made their way towards Yuha High. Starting today, as per a special recommendation, we will be having a new transfer student, 𝐲𝐴 said in a monotone voice as he wrote the student's name on the blackboard. Of course, Izuku knew who it was, as they had already met before. I would like for you all to meet Himiko Toga. Hi, Toga waved her hand in an overly excited and cheerful greeting. I hope we can all be friends. Oh my god, she's so cute, Mina exclaimed. Of course you can be my friend. Hey, if you want to hang out with us, you're always welcome, Kirishima said enthusiastically. Kirishima was always one to make new friends, always being kind and inviting towards others. It is a pleasure to meet you, Himiko-san, Ida exclaimed in his professional and loud tone. I hope we have a very productive school year together. Don't forget we're in class. The class went silent as 𝐲𝐴's eyes turned a threatening shade of red. Himiko-san, please take the empty seat between Midoriya and Yaoyorozu, please. Izuku paled as Toga bounded over to her new seat, her eyes focused on the young man. I'm so happy to be sitting next to you, Izuku-kun Tilda. Why yeah, Izuku stammered as he silently prayed for class to start. That's nice. Anyways, with that out of the way, I'm sure you all know that the UA Sports Festival will be in 2 weeks, 𝐲𝐴 said, handing out flyers for the event. It's not unlike any other sporting event, but this is a very important one for you. Many pro heroes will be present at the festival, and they will request internships for those who catch their eye. Excited muttering swept through the class. A tick appeared on 𝐲𝐴's forehead as he heard Kiro-san be mentioned more than once. Anyways, the next 2 weeks, we will be preparing for the sports festival. We will be going to the training grounds every day, and you will be practicing your quirks. Izuku sighed in exasperation as he stared at the flyer. It was just one thing after the other, wasn't it? This was going to be an interesting next couple of weeks. Ni, Deku-kun. Uraraka latched onto Izuku's arm, pulling him towards an empty table. Let's eat lunch together. As Izuku's face turned red, he felt someone else latch on to his other arm. Izuku-kun Toga pulled his arm towards an empty table on the opposite side. Won't you have lunch with me? I'll make it worth your while. Hey, no fair. Uraraka pouted at Toga as she pulled harder. I asked first. I don't care. I want to eat lunch with Izuku-kun. Toga pouted back, tugging on Izuku's hand. Now, let's not kill the little man before you take him out. Kiro walked over to them, as he realized his younger self was about to get a nosebleed. "I'm sure you three can get along if you try hard enough." "Or I can," Toga started, but was cut off by the glare Kuro gave her. "We talked about this," Kuro said. "Don't you do it or no TV for a week." "Fine." Toga crossed her arms and pouted. "Hey 𝐻𝐬, that boy over there looks a little lonely." Kuro pointed to 𝐫𝐸, who was sitting in a corner, eating his food alone. "Why don't you try and become friends with him?" "That's a great idea. Thanks, 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐴." Toga chirped before bounding off to harass the lonely boy. "Sorry about that." Kuro rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Before she met Izuku this morning, she didn't really have any friends her age. She's just really excited. Oh, Uraraka looked at the girl who was excitedly chatting with 𝐫𝐸, who awkwardly tried to get a word in. "I didn't know that." "It's okay." Kuro smiled and patted the girl's shoulder. "She didn't mean any harm in trying to steal your boyfriend." "Kuro-san," Izuku and Uraraka whined in unison. "We already told you it's not like that." Yeah, keep telling yourselves that." Kuro waved his hand dismissively. "Anyways, little man, I have some errands to run today. So can you keep watch on 𝐻𝐬-san and Eri-chan for today? I'll pay you when I get back." "Fine," Izuku grumbled. Kuro smiled at the boy and walked off. "What was that about? Who's Eri-chan?" Uraraka asked curiously. "Eri-chan is Kuro's adopted daughter," Izuku stated honestly. "He has me babysit whenever he's out on hero duty." "That's so cool," Uraraka exclaimed. "I wonder what it's like to babysit for a pro hero." "Trust me," Izuku said, shuddering. "Babysitting for Kuro-sensei is anything but cool." Spinner had spent the day hunting down fakes in the name of his idol, Stain. He had seen his message and was instantly hooked. Society had always treated him like some sort of mutant freak, and he was sick of it. He needed to get rid of those fakers and let the true heroes of society reign. He dashed through another alleyway before widening his eyes. Today was his lucky day. Right there, with his back facing him, was Black Lightning, the number 5 hero. Ever since Endeavor's arrest, Black Lightning had started going up in the charts, and people were saying that he would soon become the new number 2. Spinner dashed at the man, swinging his sword with the intent to slice the hero in two. But Black Lightning spun around, blocking the attack with a shield that appeared on his wrist. "Ah, Spinner," he said, a smile on his face. "I've been looking for you. What would the number 5 hero want with a C-class villain like me?" The lizard mutant sneered. He probably just wanted to humiliate Spinner and call him a mutant freak in public, just like everyone else. "I'll cut the crap," Kuro said, pushing force into his arm, causing Spinner to fly backwards. He landed gracefully on his feet, narrowing his eyes at the hero. "I want to provide you with a new place to stay and funds to go to a mutant support group." "Why the fuck would you want to do that?" Spinner asked suspiciously. "I'm a fucking villain. Last time I checked. Aren't you supposed to arrest me?" "Spinner, the law isn't always right," Kuro stated. "Look, right now, I'm going through the databases and trying to reform any villain that I can. I know you're not a bad person, Spinner. It was never your fault that society is so bigoted. I want to help you, Spinner, laws be damned, because that's what a hero does." Spinner froze. This was it. This Black Lightning was willing to help a villain shrouded in darkness because he can see the goodness in him, even when no one else could. Black Lightning was a true hero, one that embodied Stain's ideals. A truly good hero. So All Might wasn't the only one. That was a relief to Spinner. The world wasn't so messed up as to have only one person fighting for good. "All right," Spinner sighed, sheathing his sword. "I'll trust you. It means a lot that someone would go so far for me just based on a hunch." "It's not a hunch," Kuro said, looking into Spinner's confused eyes. "I can see it in your eyes. You're not evil. The resolve in your eyes. The need to be accepted. That's enough to get me to trust you." Spinner held back tears. Someone was finally treating him like a person. After all these years, someone was finally reaching out to him. Someone was finally trusted him. Kuro smiled as he held out his hand. Spinner smirked as the two shook hands. Maruko was perched on a building, looking to see if there was any trouble going on in the city. It was surprisingly empty. It had been months since the city was this free of crime. Something was off, and Maruko knew it. She narrowed her eyes as she thought about what could be happening. "Yo," a deep voice made Maruko jump. She turned around and glared at the man before realizing that it was Black Lightning, the number 5 hero. The man that was quickly catching up to her on the charts, and one that was said to be surpassing her soon. "What do you want?" Maruko asked. "You don't usually patrol this part of the city." "Is there something wrong with me waiting to make a couple friends?" Black Lightning asked her, waving his hand dismissively. "Anyways, I'm 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐶. Usajama Rumi." Maruko shook the hand that 𝐀𝐦 extended to her. "Are the clean streets you're doing?" "I thought that someone like you could use a little R&R, 𝐀𝐦 shrugged. "I didn't have anything to give you, so I thought I'd cover your shift as a sort of gift." "Some gift," Maruko scoffed. "Thanks. Anyways, I haven't been doing well on sleep." "Tell me about it," 𝐀𝐦 sighed. "I adopted a child not too long ago, and now my sleep schedule is all over the place." "You? A child?" Maruko asked. 𝐀𝐦 was nothing like what the media portrayed him as. To the media, 𝐀𝐦 was some stoic badass who didn't care for any relationships that weren't professional. "I didn't see you as the type." "I get that a lot," 𝐀𝐦 shrugged again. "I know I'm supposed to be some stoic hero and all, but I just can't resist that adorable face." Maruko laughed out loud at that. The undefeated hero being defeated by a child? "You need to tell me more," she said between laughs. "I'm very interested in the child who managed to best the great Black Lightning." 𝐀𝐦 laughed a little and smiled a warm, genuine smile. You would have never asked." 𝐀𝐦 yawned as he drove 𝐸𝐸 to school. He had stayed up all night chatting with Maruko and doting over his daughter. It was really fun for him, since he didn't get many opportunities to talk about his child. He parked his car and got out, opening the door for 𝐸𝐸. 𝐀𝐦 grabbed 𝐸𝐸's hand as the two walked over to room 3 and knocked on the door. A couple crashing sounds could be heard before Fayumi opened the door, looking a little ragged. "Ah, 𝐀𝐦-san," she exclaimed happily. "Don't mind my appearance. I just tripped over the wire over there." 𝐀𝐦 giggled and smiled at her. "It's okay. Thank you for taking care of 𝐸𝐸-chan." "Oh, that reminds me." Fayumi straightened her glasses and looked at 𝐀𝐦 with a serious look on her face. "I'm going to be visiting my mom after school tomorrow. I wanted to introduce you to her. After all, you are the one that saved us from Endeavor." "Of course," 𝐀𝐦 smiled softly as he patted 𝐸𝐸's head, ignoring her whines of protest. "I would love that." 𝐀𝐦 checked his watch as he entered the hospital. 4 p.m. on the dot. He looked around for a little while before seeing Fayumi waving him over. 𝐀𝐦 and Fayumi would have gone together, but 𝐀𝐦 opted that it was better for 𝐸𝐸 to stay at home with Toga and Izuku. After all, 𝐸𝐸 was still shy with strangers. "Are you ready?" Fayumi asked the man. As 𝐀𝐦 nodded, she led him through the busy hallways of the hospital before finding room 214. She opened the door and gestured for 𝐀𝐦 to enter first. "Hi, Mom. I wanted to introduce you to someone." "Oh," Rei turned her head to examine the two visitors. Ever since Enji's court case and the announcement of Talia's survival, Rei has been doing a lot better mentally. "And who might you be?" "My name is 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐶, Todoroki-san." 𝐀𝐦 bowed slightly at the greeting. "It's an honor to meet you." "Please, call me Rei." Rei smiled at the man. "After all, you are the one who saved my family." "I was just doing my job as a hero." 𝐀𝐦 returned the woman's warm smile. "Also, I couldn't help but step in after I caught wind that someone was abusing my daughter's precious teacher." Fayumi blushed slightly at the praise. Yes, 𝐀𝐦 is a delight to have in my class. Do tell. Rei's warm smile never faltered. Kuro and Fayumi took the 2 chairs in the room meant for visitors and sat down. After all, when someone asked Kuro about her daughter, they were in for a day worth of tales and stories. It was late at night when Fayumi and Kuro walked out of the hospital, talking and laughing. Kuro then checked his wristwatch and paled. Crap, I'm going to be late for my meeting. Meeting? Fayumi asked, curious as to what Kuro did in his spare time other than dote on his daughter. Oh, I'm running a… Kuro paused to think for a moment, having to choose his words carefully. Support group. I'm running a support group for those who feel like society has wronged them in some way, because of their quirks or otherwise. That's really sweet of you, Fayumi smiled at the man. Kuro blushed ever so slightly at the praise and nodded. Anyways, I'll see you tomorrow, Fayumi-san, he said before speeding off to meet his next target. Twice was perched on a building, eyeing a bank he was ready to cause havoc in. As Twice was about to jump down, he heard a whoosh and a crackle behind him. He turned around to see the recently appointed number 4 hero, Black Lightning. Oh man, he was definitely screwed this time. Yo, Twice. The hero waved his hand in a casual greeting before crossing his arms. I wanted to have a chat with you. Are you willing to put aside a few minutes to talk? No, I'll fucking kill you, Twice yelled. Instead of reacting, Kuro raised his eyebrow, his arms remaining crossed. Actually, never mind. I'm not feeling murdery right now. That's good, Kuro said, smiling slightly. Anyways, I wanted to invite you to this little group I have going on. Care to hear about it? Yeah, I've heard of your group, Twice said. The two paused for a second. It's called Prison. No, Kuro chuckled a little bit. It's less beat the crap out of you and hope you don't drop the soap, and more we help you with whatever's going on, and we work to wipe your name off the record of villains. What would you know about my problems? Fuck this. I'm leaving, Twice said, jumping down the building. After a couple seconds of waiting, Twice jumped back up. Actually, I changed my mind. You caught my attention, Mr. Hero Man. What do you want me to do? First of all, I'm going to move you into a better part of town, Kuro said. I'll pay for your expenses for 8 months, longer if I have to. And no, alcohol and cigarettes don't count as living expenses. I already have 3 ex-villains living in the same apartment complex. All of them have their own stuff to work out. But I thought that it would be better if you all can help each other sort things out. You all have something in common. Society has wronged you in some way, and you all feel the need to be accepted. That's why I'm doing this. You don't have to turn to villainy to be accepted by someone. So, Twice, are you interested? After a small argument Twice had with himself, he crossed his arms and nodded. Sure, why not? Kuro smirked. Perhaps the thing he told Fayumi wasn't complete bullshit after all. After thinking about it for a while, Kuro concluded that it couldn't hurt to have one of these meetings, so he invited Spinner, Dabai, Toga, and Twice to his apartment. Most of the ex-villains felt more comfortable wearing their old villain costumes because that represented who they are and how they felt. All the ex-villains sat in a circle with Kuro. Iri was on Kuro's lap, smiling with her eyes closed as Kuro brushed her hair. Why is the brat here? Spinner asked the man. I thought this was for people with problems. Well, Iri-chan here was being experimented on by Overhaul before I adopted her, Kuro said. Iri shuddered at the name and Kuro patted her head reassuringly. We all have stuff to work on and stuff we need to let out. Here we're not going to judge anyone for what they've done or what they've gone through. No matter what is said, no one will be judged, shunned, or arrested. That will be the point of the meeting. So, who wants to start? Well, my old man did an illegal quirk marriage, Dabai started. He was trying to get the perfect combination of quirks so his child can surpass all might, or whatever. I'm sure you've heard of the case with Endeavor. Anyways, when my siblings, and I didn't have the quirk he wanted, the old bastard treated us like shit. He'd hit us, yell at us, and berate us if anything we did was less than perfect. Same with our mom. After living the first half of my life like that, I had enough. I ran away and became a villain. I couldn't live in a world where scumbags like my piece of shit father could be known as one of the top heroes. After a small pause, Toga spoke up. "My quirk makes me crave blood," she said, in a tone that might have been a bit too cheerful for the topic. "My mother hated me for my quirk. She called me a freak, she screamed at me, hit me, and did really mean things to me. One day, she cornered me in the kitchen, so I grabbed a kitchen knife and killed her. I ran away after that and attacked people so I can satiate the craving for blood." A couple of the people in the group can tell that near the end, the cheerfulness in her voice was forced. 𝗬𝗲𝗍 put his hand on Toga's shoulder and pulled her into an embrace. "I lived in a part of town that was really bigoted against mutant quirks," Spinner growled, the contempt for his place of birth painfully obvious. "I'd be teased and bullied for my appearance. Once, when there was a fire in my school, a hero who was saving the children looked at me and told me to save myself before leaving. I somehow survived, which is when I saw Stain's message. I remembered that hero, and I decided to follow Stain's ideals, cutting down the fake heroes. I had to deal with," Twice started after another moment of silence, but stopped. "I don't really want to talk about it." "Of course," 𝐬𝐻 put a hand on the man's shoulder, causing him to flinch a little. At the obvious sign of discomfort, 𝐬𝐻 pulled his hand away. "No one here will make you share. This is an open environment to talk and to confide in each other." "So, are you going to tell us what's fucked up with you?" Spinner asked. 𝐬𝐻 looked down at 𝐸 and patted her head. She heard enough profanity from 𝐬𝐻's shouting matches at the table whenever he stubbed his toe to not be worried about having people cuss around her. "Yeah, I used to live in another country. A place where no one outside of the country knew what was going on," 𝐬𝐻 started. "It wasn't technically a lie. A foe set up signal jammers so Japan couldn't call for reinforcements from the rest of the world. We were locked in war with an evil villain, one at the cusp of achieving the power to take over the world. The only reason he didn't do it already is because my side was holding him back. I was in this war since I was a teenager. I lost so many people in that war. I was the last one to survive. At that time, I decided to start a new life in Japan. Make new friends, start a new family. It was then I swore never to let anyone down again. I swore that if I could save someone's life, or if I could save someone from the darkness, then I would. To be honest, I never saw any of you as villains. I just saw you as people wanting to live your lives and society fucking with your dreams and goals." There was a tense silence before 𝐸 started sniffling. "Papa's story is so sad." She hugged her adopted father and 𝐬𝐻 smiled, hugging her back and patting her head. "Is there anything anyone else wants to add before we end this meeting?" Everyone shook their head no except for Toga, who asked if she could have some of 𝐬𝐻's blood. The obvious answer was no, but 𝐬𝐻 promised to get her a blood bag later that day. "If that's all, then you can go home. I'll hold another meeting like this next week at the same time. It's your decision if you still want to come. I won't make you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk about these things. I know how hard it is to open up to people, but we're here for you. My goal is to make a tight-knit group where all of you can confide in each other and none of you will feel alone again." With that, the ex-villains filed out of the room. 𝐬𝐻 looked at his wristwatch. He had overnight patrols soon, and it was getting late. He looked at his daughter, who was sound asleep in his arms. He gently lifted her up and tucked her into bed, kissing her forehead before leaving for work. Sir Night-Eye was curled up into a ball on his bed, in utter disbelief of what he saw. He kept on telling himself that it was a lie, a trick of the light. But no matter how much he told himself so, he knew it was the truth. He had been at this for a couple hours, but he decided that it was time. It was time to call All Might and tell him of the vision he just had. The vision of Black Lightning looking down at the corpse of the #1 hero. Kuro was standing on a building, overlooking the city to see if there was any more villains to go after. A loud crash interrupted his thoughts, causing Kuro to turn around. Déjà vu, Kuro muttered to himself as he saw All Might standing there, with his arms crossed. Black Lightning, we need to talk. All Might's voice was serious, and for the first time Kuro had seen in this time around, All Might wasn't smiling. Kuro sighed, already knowing what was going to transpire in the next few minutes. Look, I already know what Sir Night-Eye saw, Kuro said. He expected the look of pure shock coming from his old mentor. How did you? All Might started, but Kuro held a hand up, signifying that he wasn't done. Look, I can't tell you everything right now. There are a few things that need to happen before I can reveal my secrets, Kuro said, much to the agitation of All Might. I know that you want answers, but this is important info. Info that can put even you in danger. What kind of person would be powerful enough as to be a danger to me for knowing such info? All Might asked, dreading the worst. I think we both know who, Kuro said, grimacing at the thought of that monster of a man. Anyways, here's my email. I'll answer any questions I can, but I can't tell you everything. There will be a time and place for that, and you will know when. Kuro handed All Might a slip of paper and vanished in a crackle of black electricity. All Might looked at the sheet of paper and gasped quietly as he read the contents. Kuro sighed as he logged on to his backup email when he got home to be bombarded with emails by Gran Torino, Sir Night-Eye, and All Might. Knowing Nezu, he was probably doing some techie 4D chess moves that Kuro can't even begin to comprehend. He turned off his computer and flopped on the bed. Maybe it was a bad idea to reveal his identity. No matter though. It's not like they could beat the info out of them, and all of them know better than to try to get Kuro to talk through 𝐬𝐻. The last time someone tried to hold 𝐬𝐻 hostage, the only thing left of their base was a 30-foot crater in the ground. Kuro stared at the ceiling and went over his plan for the sports festival. He had taken all the necessary precautions and has a plan laid out for what was going to happen and already knew who he was going to send intern requests to. He sighed, realizing that he was about to pass Best Jeanist in the rankings and considered also taking Bakugo as well. He shook his head, realizing Best Jeanist had more patience than him and could probably straighten him out a bit better as well. He closed his eyes, figuring he should take a break once in a while. Izuku followed Kuro through the winding hallways of UA High, wondering what he wanted this time. It seems like every other day, Kuro will drag him around to do errands, which were usually excuses for him to go chat up Lady Midnight and watch in glee as Midnight would talk to Izuku while deliberately trying to make him flustered. They finally find their way to Class 1H. Izuku wonders why Kuro brought him to a support classroom an hour and a half before school started. But the young boy has learned not to ask questions when it came to his neighbor. Kuro knocked on the door and waited as several crashes and small explosions could be heard before someone, who Izuku recognized as Power Loader, opened the door. Ashes and burn marks peppered around his body. Oh, great. Not you again, Power Loader grumbled. I don't know how you do it, but somehow May gets more excited when you're around. I don't know how much longer my sanity can take it. Oh, don't be like that, Higari-kun, Kuro teased lightly as Izuku shifted uncomfortably. I just want to introduce our resident genius to my student here. I was thinking of getting a couple commissions for him before the internships started. Whatever, Power Loader grumbled. She's in the back, creating God knows what now. Thank you, Kuro chirped as he dragged Izuku through the classroom to a girl with pink hair and goggles, working on a round sphere. May-chan, I want you to meet someone. The girl, now named May, yelped as the orb combusted, leaving the three covered in dust of varying colors of the rainbow. Oh, Kuro-san, the girl chirped, taking off her goggles to reveal beautiful, yellow eyes. I was just working on a rainbow smokescreen. I'm still working on the specs, but I'm sure to have it down in no time. It looks great, Kuro smiled excitedly at the girl. This is Midoriya Izuku, my student. I was thinking of getting a couple things commissioned for him before the internship started. The girl instantly darted up to an uncomfortably close distance to Izuku, causing the boy's face to turn bright red. Hi, I'm 𝐻𝐡𝐚 𝐬. So you want me to make some super cute babies for you? Izuku sputtered and stammered. Not able to form a coherent sentence, he waved his arms, trying to gesture that she was too close. Mei didn't get the message and just stared into his eyes expectantly. Mei-chan, I'll deal with all of the ordering. I actually have everything written down on here. Kuro tapped the girl's shoulder and handed her a piece of paper. Ooh, Mei looked at the paper, reading its contents. You sure do love to give me a challenge, Kuro-san. I'll have these done by next week. Thanks. Just give it to Midoriya-kun when you finish, Kuro smiled. Anyways, have fun tormenting Power Loader. I have to take this little man over to the training areas. Have fun. Mei chirped as the two walked away, Izuku still muttering to himself in shock. Why did you take me to meet her? Izuku asked, suspecting that he knew Mei's tendency to stand a bit too close to people. Do you do that just to torment me? Usually yes, but there was another reason, Kuro smiled at the boy. Mei-chan is actually the one who makes all my gadgets, so I thought I'd introduce her. She's a bit eccentric, but I wouldn't trust anyone else to make them. You get your gadgets from a student? Izuku asked curiously. Most heroes around your ranking have entire companies working on their gadgets alone. That is true, but Mei-chan is a prodigy, Kuro stated. She truly cares for the things she makes and treats them more than just a means to an end. There aren't many people with the amount of passion she has in the industry left. I already ordered some starting equipment for you, but after that, you should probably order yourself. After all, you know what you want more than me. I guess, Izuku said nervously. If anything, talking to her would be harder than getting the money to pay for the gadgets he had in mind. Anyways, let's get to the training field. I want you to be at a certain level of power before you get sent off to your pro hero after the festival, Kuro said. Wait, so you're not going to be the one interning me? Izuku asked, a little hurt. He really wanted to intern under Kuro, as he was the number 4 hero, and Izuku looked up to the man. Nah, Kuro said, waving his hand dismissively. The people who know the truth about your quirk are very small, but also very reliable. I think it's time you should start meeting them. Kuro sighed as the two entered the training field. He wanted to have Izuku at 20% by the time internships started, but he knew that was impossible. He was only at around 10, and he couldn't possibly get Izuku up to 20 in such a short time. He wanted Izuku to get to 20%, because that was the amount of power he was able to control before unlocking Black Whip. And if his theory was correct, the number of quirks he unlocked was directly related to the amount of power he could use without completely destroying his body. So we're going to start training you to use 12% of your quirk's power, Kuro said. Honestly, I wanted you to be a bit farther along, but I'd rather you not completely destroy your body in the process. Izuku nodded slightly as he channeled the power through his body, exerting a bit more than he usually did before launching towards Kuro. Izuku knew the drill by now. Whenever he was training with his quirk, it was almost always either sparring or rescue, and Kuro always spent time prepping before rescue. Good, Kuro said, dodging the young man's attack. When facing an opponent stronger than you should use the element of surprise to your favor. Izuku launched out a fury of attacks, trying his best to hit his mentor. He's maybe hit Kuro once or twice during training, but no more. Kuro effortlessly dodged all his attacks before launching a punch at his student. Izuku blocked the attack, but was still sent flying a few meters into a wall. Your attacks are too predictable, Kuro said sternly as he watched the boy get up. You need to improvise more. You won't always have the liberty of a plan. Izuku nodded as he started the hellish hour of training his mentor was about to put him through. Izuku stood up painfully from his seat, longing for a break. The training Kuro put him through was hellish in nature, and it didn't do him well in class. He went to get lunch only to see a bunch of students blocking his path. Many general students can be transferred up into the hero course. Izuku heard a boy talking to 𝐀𝐻, who obviously was pissed off. The opposite is the same. It would do you well to consider these words a declaration of war. What the fuck did you just say? 𝐀𝐻 yelled at the boy. Before he could continue, a dry chuckle could be heard within the crowd. The kids made way as Kuro walked up to the two arguing students. He looked down at the boy who was talking to 𝐀𝐻. He had purple hair and huge bags under his eyes. From what I'm hearing, Kuro started, towering over the boy, is that you're going to kick the asses of everyone in the hero course and move up to become a pro? That's right, the boy looked up at Kuro, seemingly unfazed. I'll prove everyone wrong. You got a problem with that? Kuro smirked. You got spunk, kid, Kuro said, turning around. Follow me. I want to talk with you. Hitoshi Shinso walked into Kuro's messy office, thoroughly scared. He backtalked the number 4 hero, a hero who seemed to have a particular liking to Class 1A. He was used to dealing with bigots judging people by their quirk, but he was up against someone with a lot of power. For all he knew, 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐸 could expel him without a second thought. Kuro sat in his chair and looked at Shinso. Relax, kid, I'm not going to do anything bad to you, he said, shocking Shinso. He was so used to dealing with people who saw nothing about him but his quirk. Your name is Hitoshi Shinso, correct? Shinso nodded and Kuro gestured towards one of the couches. Sit, Hitoshi-kun. I won't take up too much of your time. What do you want from me? Shinso asked the man, sitting down. Shinso activated his quirk, fully intending to brainwash the man into getting him out of this situation as soon as he responded. That quirk won't work on me, Kuro scowled, as if remembering something unpleasant. I've been brainwashed enough to develop a tolerance for quirks like yours. Shinso looked at him, shocked. How could he have detected the use of his quirk? Even more important, how was he resistant? He has never heard or seen anyone actively repel his quirk. Look, Kuro started. I wanted to offer you a place among my interns when that rolls around. I know how society has treated you. I used to get that a lot when I was younger. Many people want to be heroes because of the money and fame, but you want to do it to prove something. You want to prove that even people with villainous quirks can become heroes. Shinso nodded, curious on how this man got so much knowledge of him. It was quite creepy, actually. I've heard rumors about you, Kuro stated, as if reading the boy's mind. Kids in the general classes were talking crap about you, and I wanted to see for myself. Now that I've seen you firsthand, I can tell that you have a lot of promise. So, will you let me train you? Mustard walked calmly in an alley full of thugs, emitting his gas to cause the thugs to pass out. He was particularly in a bad mood that evening. The US Sports Festival was tomorrow, and he'd have to spend the whole day putting up with a bunch of pampered, spoiled kids do stupid activities with no real meaning. He hated that the world let such simple kids be pampered. Mustard turned around, whipping out his gun and firing it at the sound of footsteps. How did someone manage to stay conscious while in his gas? He was still emitting it, so it must have traveled a few meters at least. He never heard the sound of bullets hitting flesh, though. He only heard the continuous sound of footsteps. Soon, the person Mustard shot had revealed himself to be the number 4 hero, Black Lightning. Mustard panicked and made a break for it. It was impossible for him to deal with a hero of that caliber, especially if he was somehow immune to his gases. Mustard turned to see if the hero was still there. When he saw he wasn't, he turned around, only to stop inches away from the man. He backed up, but noticed the Black Lightning wasn't approaching him, or even taking out handcuffs. Mustard, the hero started. I'm not here to fight. I just want to talk. What business would I have talking to someone like you? Mustard sneered. He knew where this man worked at. Mustard hated UA, the most prestigious school in Japan, where kids get pampered into being heroes. He hated it. He hated it so much. Look, I understand that you don't want to talk to someone who works at 𝐬𝐬. Black Lightning started, sighing as he shoved his hands into his pocket. I understand what you think and how you feel. There are definitely some things wrong with how 𝐬𝐬 and society as a whole works. I know that society has wronged you, and I'm here to give you a second chance. A chance to get your life together and live happily. After all, the best form of vengeance is to live life to the fullest. Mustard narrowed his eyes behind his gas mask, letting his gas disappear. And why would you want to give a villain like me a second chance? As far as I'm concerned, I'm content with living my life as it is. A hero is supposed to save people, Black Lightning said. All the heroes out there are busy saving the civilians, but no one thinks about the villains. I understand your feelings. I had to go through hell and back to get where I am today. Society shunned me as well, never thinking that I would become a hero, much like you. There weren't many people out there that really cared about you, and you never really got to live through your youth. I want to give you this chance to enjoy your teenage years, and have you grow up to become someone who can do good. Hell, maybe I can even make you a hero. I know you pride yourself in your skills, so why don't we put it to better use than just stealing and selling back weapons on the black market? Mustard paused to think. He had always wanted to become a hero, but society was too jacked to even recognize him. Now this man, one of the top-ranking heroes in Japan, was telling him that he could still achieve his dream, despite what others told him. He had never wanted to turn to a life of villainy, but circumstances lead him to a corner with no way out, until now. The young man looked at the hero and nodded. What do I need to do? 𝐴𝐻𝐸 was cleaning the table when she heard a knock on the door. It was unusual, since Mitsuki and Kuro usually only visit when Izuku and Kaken were not in school. She walked over and opened the door and saw Kuro, who should totally be at work right now. Don't you have work? She asked. I'm on paid time off, Kuro shrugged. Anyways, I was going to ask you for a favor. Of course, 𝐴𝐻𝐸 smiled at the man. Kuro was always there to help out around the house, and with anything 𝐴𝐻𝐸 needed despite his already huge workload. What can I do for you? I'm hosting a support group for some people who haven't had the best life, Kuro started. I thought I would ask you to come. I'm not implying that there's anything wrong with you, but I feel like you would be a positive influence on them. 𝐴𝐻𝐸 thought for a moment. It's really nice that you're doing something like that for these troubled people, she said sweetly. I would love to help out. Well, saving people doesn't just consist of punching villains and stopping crashing planes. Kuro smiled softly at the woman. It's in a couple hours, actually. I'll be in my apartment. 𝐴𝐻𝐸 nodded as she closed the door, pondering what to do for the support crew. A light bulb lit up in her head as she smiled. Yes, that was perfect. Toga was humming a tune as she paced around her apartment. Kuro had signed some papers so she could take the school day off. Uraraka's jealous, pouty face popped into Toga's head, causing her already huge grin to widen. They had become rivals of sort. When they were not fighting for Izuku's attention, they were competing over everything. Even though they would bicker a lot, the two girls had a silent respect for each other, and they did consider each other friends. Haim-san, 𝗵𝗲 called from the living room. It's time to go, Toga gigged as she put on her old school uniform. As much as she enjoyed the UA school uniforms, nothing beat the outfit she used when she was a villain. She skipped over to the door, where 𝗵𝗲 was already waiting for her in his old villain outfit, stitches and all. 𝗵𝗲 opened the door, and the two ex-villains walked all of 8 feet to the next door over and knocked. After a couple of seconds, the door opened, revealing their neighbor. Ah, Toga, 𝗵𝗲. Come in, Kuro smiled as the two walked inside the apartment, realizing that the uncomfortable chairs that were there last week were replaced by couches and cushioned chairs. Twice and Spinner were already there, debating about whether or not Twice's measuring tape was as sharp as Spinner's sword, and a new person, a teenager with a gas mask and a normal high school uniform sitting alone, seemingly deep in thought. They took their seats next to each other as Kuro sat, leaving one empty seat. Right when Toga started thinking about this new mystery person, a knock on the door was heard. Kuro smiled and bounded over, opening the door. Kuro and whatever person was at the door exchanged some pleasantries, being too far to be seen or heard. Toga was shocked when Kuro came back with Izuku's mother, holding a tray of home-baked chocolate-chipped cookies. "Thank you for having me, Kuro." 𝐴𝐻𝐸 smiled softly as she placed the tray of intoxicating cookies on the table in the center of the circle. "Now, does anyone want some cookies?" "Ooh, can I?" Toga squealed excitedly. She has had 𝐴𝐻𝐸's cookies before, and they were heavenly. "Please, please, please." "Of course, Himiko-chan." 𝐴𝐻𝐸 smiled softly at her son's friend. "Please, help yourself." Toga squealed excitedly as she took a cookie and munched on it, melting at the divine flavor of the chocolate. "Nah, I'm fine. I don't really like sweets," Twice said while taking two and eating them through his mask. "I would never deny your baking." 𝗬𝗲𝗍 smiled as he took a cookie. "I'll take one," Spinner smirked, taking a cookie and biting down. "Oh my god, what is this? This is amazing." 𝐴𝐻𝐸 chuckled as the lizard man excitedly finished his cookie. She softly smiled at the boy with a gas mask. "Now, no need to be shy. I made these cookies for all of you, so feel free to take them." "Are you sure?" the boy asked her. "You would really let someone like me have one?" "Of course, dear," 𝐴𝐻𝐸 said, her smile not wavering. "I hope you enjoy." "Thank you," the boy said wholeheartedly as he shyly plucked a cookie from the tray, lifting his mask slightly to nibble it. "It's delicious." "I'm glad," 𝐴𝐻𝐸 said softly. "Now, we have 2 new members," Kuro started. "Here we have Mustard, an ex-C rank villain, and 𝐴𝐻𝐸, my next-door neighbor. I asked her to come because she is a really sweet lady, and I thought you all would like another friend." "You flatter me." 𝐴𝐻𝐸's cheeks tinted red at the praise. She's seen all these people on TV before as villains, but wasn't scared. Kuro would protect her. He always did. "It's a pleasure to meet you all." "Anyways, let's get started," Kuro said, taking a cookie for himself, smiling nostalgically at the flavor of the cookie. 𝐴𝐻𝐸 was always curious about the look on the hero's face whenever he ate her cookies, but he avoided the question whenever she asked. After a couple times, she decided to drop it after he gave a sad smile that spoke of untold sorrows. 𝐴𝐻𝐸 sat silently as Kuro asked who wanted to start. There was an awkward silence as the ex-villains contemplated whether they wanted to talk now rather than later. "I'll go first," Spinner said, raising his hand. "I really like this new place. People don't seem to give me weird looks as much when I go shopping or when I go to work. The people at the forge are really nice to me and treat me like anyone else. It's a great change of pace, and I'm really happy here." "That's great," Kuro smiled. "There are a lot more mutant types here, so people are more inclusive here, which is why I thought it would be good for you to live here. I went to the therapist you mentioned," the man apparently named Twice spoke up. "I've been contradicting myself less, and I've really made some progress in figuring out my identity. The therapist is really patient and caring with me, and I'm really happy I went. With Endeavor gone, I don't really have much to worry about," Talia, who went by 𝗬𝗲𝗍 said. "The bar is amazing. I love hearing people's stories and talking to people. I met an interesting man the other day. His name is Atsuhiro Sako, if I remember correctly. He had many interesting stories to tell, and I really enjoyed his company." "Ah, that's very interesting," Kuro stated. "I was thinking of inviting him to the group, actually." "Wait, he's a villain?" 𝗬𝗲𝗍 asked back. He knew better than to protest Kuro, though. It's not that he was one to intimidate someone into silence, but Kuro was almost always right. "He goes by the name Mr. Compress," Kuro said simply. "He's a B-rank villain who prides himself as an entertainer." "Really? I've worked with him a couple times," Spinner said. "He's great to work with during heists. He is a bit showy, though." "Anyways," Kuro cleared his throat, causing 𝐴𝐻𝐸 to giggle. Despite all the talk about villains, This group of people seemed really fun, though her heart reached out to them. It sounded like they all had tough lives, from what she could infer. Bigotry and societal standards were terrible things, and she wanted to help these people. 𝐻𝐸-san, how's Yua? Yua's really fun, Toga chirped. Inko heard a scoff from the boy named Mustard, but she waved it off as her imagination. All the kids are really nice, and they all want to be my friends. Except Kakin and Shokan, though. Ah, that makes sense, Kiro smiled softly. Give them time. They'll come around eventually. Kiro then turned his head to Mustard. So how has your first week been? It's been all right, Mustard sighed. I've had some trouble enrolling into a school, though. I was actually thinking of wiggling you into Yua like I did with 𝐻𝐸-san, Kiro started. Mustard's head snapped in surprise at that statement. You'll have to be in the general education class, though. Though the sports festival is soon, so I'm sure you can work your way up to the hero course in no time. I want nothing to do with the pampered kids that go there, Mustard said simply. You'd be surprised how hard those kids work sometimes, Kiro said. Shigaraki Tamura and Kurogiri are both S-class villains. Those kids fought for their lives back at the USG. Maybe I can take you to a class, and you could see how it works. Mustard paused to think for a little while. Fine, he thought, sneaking a glance at Toga. I'll give it a try, but no promises. Kiro smiled. I wouldn't expect any less, he said. Now, is there anything else anyone wants to say? I do. Toga raised her hand excitedly. Everything is so boring. I like Yua, but it's boring. I don't get to fight that much anymore. I want something fun to do. I agree, 𝗬𝗲𝗍 said. As much as I like the bar, I feel so stuck. I want to move around and fight. It's what I'm used to. The other villains nodded in agreement, and surprisingly, Kiro smiled. I have an outing planned for us in a few hours. I think you all would appreciate it. That evening, Kiro stood outside with all the ex-villains and stared at the moon. So you guys are going to accompany me on hero work? Wait, so we're going to be heroes? 𝗬𝗲𝗍 exclaimed. Fuck that. Nah, I'm not that cruel, Kiro waved his hand dismissively, smirking at the fire user. You'll be vigilantes. Contrary to popular belief, I don't give two shits about that stupid Quirk law. I'll be saying that you're working under my firm, but I'll give you pretty much free rein, as long as you don't work too far from me and only attack villains and criminals. Is that clear? 𝗬𝗲𝗍 groaned. Toga squealed excitedly. Spinner smirked and unsheathed his gigantic sword. Twice raised his eyebrow and took out his measuring tapes. Mustard twirled the two revolvers Kiro gave him only moments before with his fingers, smirking underneath his mask. All right, guys, Kiro smiled. Let's go. Maruko was locked in combat with a group of villains. There were around 5 or 6, each with control over a different element. Maruko jumped, dodging a bolt of electricity, and kicked a shard of ice. She was vastly outnumbered, but not outmatched. She knew she could win, but it would cause a lot more damage than she would like, and would probably be wounded in the progress. As one of the villains launched a stream of fire, catching Maruko off guard, a stream of blue fire intercepted it as a man jumped in front of the hero. Maruko's eyes widened as she recognized the stitches the man had on his face. 𝗬𝗲𝗍, she exclaimed. Just her luck. She was fighting an already huge pain in the ass, but the rank villain she had clashed with so many times had popped up out of nowhere. Relax, rabbit lady, the villain said as he melted a chunk of ice and kicked the ice wielder in the face, sending him flying. Boss man said I can't attack heroes, so I won't. Boss man? Maruko asked as she dodged another bolt of electricity as she saw a man, his class villain twice, smack the sender with a measuring tape before cloning himself and engage 2 more enemies. Maruko stood in shock. As twice worked, never has he cloned himself before. Just what was happening? Another villain tried to attack Maruko as she stood there, distracted, but a lizard man hit her attacker with the flat side of a gigantic sword. "Are you okay, Miss Hero Lady?" the lizard man asked, smirking at the hero. "Why, yeah," Maruko said. With little effort, the three villains cleared out the elemental villains. "Oh, I see you've met my new sidekicks," a voice caused Maruko to jump. She turned then to see her friend 𝐀𝐦 walking up to her, his hands in his pockets. "Sidekicks?" Maruko demanded, the amount of shock and confusion on her face evident. "These are villains. Ex-villains, Miss Hero Lady," the lizard man, who Maruko suddenly recognized as a small-time villain named Spinner. "We're now working with Black Lightning. We've turned over a new leaf and are trying to not be bad for once." "What did you do?" Maruko asked the beefy man, rubbing her temples. "Some people just need some good in their life to realize that villainy isn't the way to go," Kiro said back. "You'd be surprised. Sometimes, I think nothing can surprise me anymore with you," Maruko sighed. "Anyways, I'm off. If any of you step out of line, I won't hesitate to arrest you." Yeah, 𝗳𝗵𝗿 waved his hand dismissively. "Do what you want, see if I care." "Shut up, Flame Brain," Maruko growled before jumping off. "Flame Brain," Kiro chuckled. "This is going to be an interesting evening indeed." In some insignificant alleyway, a bright flash of light flared throughout. After the light subsided, a beaten and bloodied woman wearing black and white fell over. She looked around and limped over to the side and sat. Tearing off a bit of her cape, she starts to bandage her wounds. "Okay, I have no idea where I am or what's going on," the woman thought to herself. "I need to patch up and get info. I don't think I can trust hospitals. After all, since he sent me here, I can't trust anything." "Come with me," Shoto commanded our resident broccoli-headed jelly bean. Izuku curiously followed his classmate to an empty entrance. "I know you have a connection with Black Lightning and All Might," Shoto started, causing Izuku to flinch slightly. "I don't care what it is, but I will beat you. I don't need pampering from some heroes to win. I will beat you with my own power." "You may very well be stronger than me," Izuku started. "But I notice you've never used your fire before. Everyone else will be trying their best. Even if you beat most of them, you would be insulting them by not giving it your all. I refuse to accept that I don't care about your dad," Izuku said sternly, practically fed up with Shoto's crap. Even after Endeavor was arrested, Shoto never stopped brooding about his dad. He felt for the kid, but the only person Shoto was hindering was himself. "I look at you and see your power. If you use your power for something good, then you will be rejecting your father in that way." With that, Izuku left, leaving the other boy speechless. Kiro cracked his knuckles as he got ready for work. He knew nothing crazy would go on at the festival, so he decided to spend time doing more important things. He took advantage of the quirk of the third user of One for All, Illusion Clone. Illusion Clone is a quirk that let Kiro clone himself. The clone was autonomous and could walk and talk, but wasn't actually there. The quirk only made people think that the clone was there. If someone tried to touch the clone, their hand would go right through the clone. As far as he knew, the clone had just arrived at the festival. Kiro put on his hero outfit and walked out the door. His destination, Hasu. "Let's welcome Class 1A's player representative, Midoriya Izuku," Lady Midnight announced. Izuku silently cursed his mentor for pulling some strings because having a speech would help his public speaking skills. The young man knew Kiro only did it to watch him suffer. But joke's on him, Izuku was prepared. "As all of you know, we were attacked by villains a couple weeks ago. It was a harrowing event indeed, but it was a wake-up call for a lot of us," Izuku started, staring at one of the billboards right above the audience. "We now know how dangerous villains can be, and we wanted to be ready. We spent the past couple weeks working as hard as we can to get stronger, and now we will prove that we're not afraid. We're ready to take on the world and fulfill our jobs as heroes. We will not go further beyond. We will not go plus ultra. We will go even further, and we will prevail." Silence is what followed the boy's speech. A drop of sweat formed on Izuku's forehead. Was there something wrong with his speech? Did he say something to offend them? As the thoughts whirled through his head, a loud cheer from the crowd almost made Izuku jump. He smiled at the crowd before stepping down. As Kuro was dashing through the city on his way to Hasu, the memories of the clone flashed through his mind. He smirked as he heard Izuku's speech in his ears. That kid was surely going places, and Kuro would be there to see it all. "Ready, set, go." The loud blaring of President Mike's voice spurred the students into action. Izuku, Kaken, Shoto, and a few others dashed ahead of the students, all at each other's toes. It seems that one of the general ed students has used his quirk to knock out a large majority of the students, President Mike yelled, almost causing Izuku to look back. He had never heard of such a student with a quirk that powerful, much less one in the general ed class. If someone had a quirk that strong, they would have been put in the hero course. It turns out this student was just accepted into the school by recommendation just days ago. Just what more does this enigma known as Mustard have in store for us? Izuku passed another student as he pondered the new student. He's heard the name Mustard from Toga a couple times. From what he knew, Mustard was a shy kid and would react similarly to Izuku when Toga would get close to him. He didn't know anything about his quirk, though. He continued to think to himself as he dashed forward. How will the students deal with the first obstacle? President Mike shouted as a fair number of zero-pointers appeared and locked on to the students. Izuku hopped his way to the top of one of the robots and kicked himself off, destroying the robot in the process. Wincing as Izuku realized that he had used more power than he had intended, he screamed in panic as he flew over the first and second obstacles and landed on his face. The unknown woman took a seat in a local bar. She thankfully had her wallet on her, so she was able to pay for the Shirley Temple she had ordered. The bartender took the money and started to brew her drink. Strange, the woman thought. That bartender looks just like 𝐀𝐦. She took a sip of the drink as she turned to look at the TV. She watched a boy fling himself across an obstacle course, the headline reading, "UA Sports Festival Live." The woman stared at the screen. Yes, the sports festival was going on right around the time she had her fight, but she didn't recognize any of the students. Things just kept getting weirder and weirder for the lady. "Excuse me, miss?" The woman looked up at the bartender who had gotten her attention. "You look like you need some medical attention. Would you like me to take you to the hospital?" "No thanks, I'm fine," the woman replied. "I honestly don't want to go to the hospital right now. I don't want to cause any unnecessary problems." For all the woman knew, this was a world created by him, and the hospitals would only prove to be bad for her. "I see." The bartender looked at her with a surprising amount of understanding. "Well, I know someone who can patch you up on the down low if you want. He may be a hero, but he's surprisingly empathetic towards our kind." "Our kind?" the woman asked. Right as the bartender opened his mouth to speak, his phone went off. "Sorry, I have to take this." The bartender put the phone to his ear. "What do you want this time?" "Wait, you made contact with who?" "You idiot." "All right, whatever. I'll be there in a couple minutes. You mind if I bring a +1? You know what? I don't care. Looks like she's in a similar situation to me." "No, her name is not 𝐀𝐦. Where did you get that? She doesn't even look like 𝐀𝐻. Anyways, I'll be there. Shut up." The woman looked in confusion as the bartender hung up the phone. "Hey, boss, Kuro's got himself into trouble. Gotta run." Without prompting, he grabbed the woman and ran out of the bar, launching the two in the air, much to the protest of the woman. She tried to escape using her quirk, but the bartender kept a tight hold of her. "Sorry, pretty lady, but this is important. My friend needs a little help, and if he's in a good mood, I'm sure he'll patch you up without killing you." Just in time, Kuro thought as a blade sunk into his arm. He had jumped in between Stain and Ingenium right as Stain was going to strike. Since 𝐀𝐦 had really thick skin from all the times he's gotten cut and beaten during the war, he wouldn't take as much damage as the other hero. Go, 𝐀𝐦, get out of here. But what about you? 𝐀𝐦 asked the number 3 hero. Don't worry about me, I'll be fine, 𝐀𝐦 shouted at the man. Now go. 𝐀𝐦 nodded as he used the boosters on his arm to dash away. 𝐀𝐦 then looked the hero killer in the eye. I won't let you kill anyone. Why? Stain asked the man as he licked his blade, immobilizing 𝐀𝐦. All you heroes are fake, treating heroism as a job, as a means for fame and fortune. None of you heroes are real. None of you are like All Might. That may be true, 𝐀𝐦 started, his plan already spinning into action. But even if 𝐀𝐦 is a fake hero, or even if I'm a fake hero, it is still my job to save lives. Perhaps one day we can change. I understand how you feel, Stain. I understand how fucked up this society is, and how the hero system isn't the best. I know that there needs to be change, but the lives of these fake heroes are still lives. And as a hero, it is my job to keep their lives safe. There does need to be change, but this isn't the way to go about it. Killing heroes will just instill fear, and desperation and despair is the exact opposite of the hope All Might instills in us. I've been working hard to change the hero industry from the inside, without bloodshed. I could really use someone like you, Stain. Please, join me. Stain paused for a second. This man, he understood. He could see it in the eyes of this man that he was telling the truth. But he was still in the way. He needed to be eliminated. You're a true hero, Black Lightning, Stain said respectfully. If the circumstances were different, I would have allowed you to kill me, but you are in the way. As such, you must die. As Stain raised his blade to finish off Talia's benefactor, a torrent of blue flames raged towards the hero killer, causing him to jump away. Talia and the woman landed behind Stain, who turned to face the ex-villain. 𝗬𝗲𝗍, the hero killer sneered. I don't understand why you're helping a fake like him. He's no fake, Talia replied. He saved my life and gave it purpose when no one else would. He's a true hero. Stain sneered as he stared daggers at the two. I'll retreat for now, but if either of you get in my way again, I'll kill you. With that, the hero killer jumped away, quickly leaving his sight. Nice of you to show up, 𝐀𝐦 said as he unfroze, shaking his hands and rubbing his wrists. He then looked to the woman, and a small hint of shock arose in his face, almost as if he recognized the woman. And who's this? Well, she's... Talia blanked as he looked at the woman with confusion as she shot him a glare. Actually, I don't know. I took her with me on impulse. What's your name again? I never asked. The woman sighed as she massaged her temples. My name is Shimura Nana. Now can I finally ask what the hell I'm doing here? 𝐀𝐦's face turned a pale sheet of white that Talia had never seen on the man before. For the first time, it truly looked like the man didn't expect for this to happen. Well, shit, so let me get this straight, Nana said, massaging her temples. While Talia went back to work, 𝐀𝐦 took Nana to his place to explain the situation. Apparently, instead of killing me, All for One sent me flying into the future. Toshinori is the number 1 hero, and All for One is still alive with my grandson as his successor. Exactly, 𝐀𝐦 said, munching on one of 𝐀𝐻's cookies. If no one knew any better, one would say he had a problem. You sure you don't want one? No, I want to see my student, Nana demanded, seriously resisting the urge to have a cookie for some unknown reason. Well, you'll have to wait until the festival is over, 𝐀𝐦 said. Yagi-kun is watching over his successor. He already has his successor? Nana asked. Man, I've been gone for a while. Yeah, 𝐀𝐦 said. So, who is it? Nana asked, curiously. Me. Izuku dodged another pillar of ice. Why aren't you using your fire? I will not use his power. Shoto dodged another punch from Izuku and tried to blast him with ice. but Izuku shattered it with his foot. "It's not his power," Izuku yelled back. "It never was. Don't let him control you from behind bars. It's your power." Something clicked in Shoto as he jumped back, smirking as a huge torrent of fire burst from his side. "Claiming you'll win while helping an enemy, huh? You have a death wish, don't you?" "No, I'll still win," Izuku proclaimed as his energy spiked, blood spurting from his arms and legs from overexertion. "But helping someone will always be more important." The two smiled as they charged each other as 5 pillars of concrete extended between them. But it meant nothing as the two titans clashed. Inji smirked in his jail cell. That was his son. He thought back to all of the things he did to his son. Maybe Kuro was on to something. He lowered his head in shame as he slowly started to realize what he did to his family. It was too late now. He already made his mistakes. He silently hoped that wherever they were, his family was happy without him, and he wished he could have done better. "So cool," Eri glowed on Fayumi's lap. The class was sitting in front of a TV screen and watching the sports festival. "I want to be just like 𝐬𝐻 when I grow up. Todoroki is so cool. Midoriya is amazing." Fayumi smiled softly as she wiped her eyes behind her glasses. Shoto was finally accepting himself. She put a hand on Eri's head. "Yeah, your brother is really cool." A tear fell down Rei's cheek and fell on the bed as she watched her son on the television screen. "Shoto," she whispered, "I'm so proud." "That's my little brother," Tauya smirked as he served another drink. "Really?" A slightly tipsy Compress took another shot and slammed his glass on the table. "He's quite the showman. You should be proud." "Of course I am," Tauya said, smiling at the television. "Speaking of showman, I have a proposition for you." "Oh?" Compress smirked as Tauya served him another drink. "Please, do tell." Izuku slowly stood up from the impact. Shoto was buried in the wall, unconscious. He had won. He weakly put a hand up as the crowd cheered. "That's him," Kuro said as he took a sip of milk. "What do you think?" "He's pretty good," Nana said, finally opening up and taking cookies. "Reminds me so much of Toshinori." "Yeah, I really was like that back then." Kuro gave a nostalgic smile to the screen. "You better teach him well, you hear?" "You bet." Nana gave the man her signature smile. After healing up, Izuku was ready for the finals. As he prepared to exit, the door opened, revealing Shoto. "Good match," Izuku said, extending a hand to his classmate. "Thank you, Midoriya," Shoto softly smiled, shaking the boy's hand. "You really saved me." "It's just my job," Izuku smiled back. "Now just sit back and watch me win." "Oi, shitty Deku," 𝐀𝐦 yelled from across the arena. "I'm gonna kick your ass." "You're welcome to try, 𝐀𝐦," Izuku yelled back. "Fight," Midnight yelled as the two dashed at each other. Izuku threw a punch at 𝐀𝐦, but he dodged and aimed an explosion at his face. Izuku grabbed his hand and attempted to sweep his legs. 𝐀𝐦 jumped and used his other hand to cause an explosion at Izuku's side. Izuku flew a few feet before catching his balance and flew back at 𝐀𝐦, kicking his face. As they fought, the two realized they were smiling. "Hey, 𝐀𝐦," Deku asked as he jumped back, dodging an explosion before dashing. "Why are you smiling?" "Shut up," 𝐀𝐦 yelled back as he attempted to uppercut his rival. "You're smiling too." The two continued to fight and smile, exchanging witty banter while they fought. The audience was in awe, wondering how the two could be taking such an intense fight so jovially. "𝐬𝐻 and 𝐾𝐻 are so cool," Toga shouted from the stands. "Who let you call him 𝐬𝐻?" Ochako pouted next to her. "He did, Akin," Toga giggled as she continued to watch the two boys fight. "I told you not to call me Akin." Ochako puffed out her cheeks. "I can't help it when you puff your cheeks out like that." Toga poked Ochako's cheek, causing the girl to blush. "It's so cute." "Shut up," Ochako yelled as the two started to play fight. Meanwhile, Deku and 𝐀𝐦 were panting on the opposite sides of the arena, still smiling. "How about we finish this, 𝐀𝐦?" Izuku said, smiling smugly at his rival. "Let's finish this, shitty Deku." 𝐀𝐦's devilish smirk plastered on his face as he prepared his strongest attack. He dashed towards the young man, using his explosions to gain momentum. Howitzer impact. Izuku channeled all the power he could muster in his hand as he dashed towards the gigantic mass of explosions. Smash! The resulting impact would have blown up the entire stadium if the heroes weren't there to subside the explosion before that could happen. "In first place, Midoriya Izuku," All Might shouted. After about half an hour of repairs, the awards were announced. While both were unconscious, 𝐀𝐦 had sustained more damage, and that was how Izuku was given the win. Izuku smiled as he received the first place medal from his teacher and idol. "Hey, Deku!" 𝐀𝐦 called Izuku from the second place stand. "I'll kick your ass next time," Izuku smiled as the two firmly shook hands. "I'll be waiting." A few minutes after the festival, All Might took his phone and looked at the number. It was Kuro's. Kuro only called when something was important, and he couldn't make it there in person. All Might answered and put the phone to his ear. "What's up, Black Lightning? Can you come over to my place? It's urgent," Kuro said from the other side of the phone. His surroundings were deathly quiet. "I'll be there," All Might said, hanging up the phone and dashing towards Kuro's apartment. Kuro never used the word urgent. Ever. All Might jumped from building to building, ready to support his friend and comrade at a moment's notice. He landed on Kuro's front step and knocked on the door. After a couple seconds, Kuro answered the door. "Thanks for coming, Toshinori-san. What seems to be the problem?" Things weren't adding up. Kuro only used his name when he was in his skinny form, which he was not, and when someone else in the room knew his identity. Nothing seems to be out of the ordinary. "Well, about that," Kuro said, stepping aside. All Might's face paled as if he saw a ghost. He was seeing a ghost. "Shimura-san?" After a long hug between student and mentor, the three heroes sat in the room where Kuro usually had his support groups. "So All for One transported you into the future, instead of actually killing you?" "That seems to be the case," Nana said. "Kuro's been caring for me ever since." "And how do you know about One for All?" All Might asked the man. "Did you really think All for One only stayed in Japan?" Kuro asked All Might seriously. Of course, All for One never had any intention of leaving Japan until he took it over. But they didn't need to know that. "My country was destroyed by him before I moved here. All for One tried to replicate the power of One for All. The result was me." All Might stared at Kuro in shock. It made so much sense. The sparks of energy, the strength. He was stronger than All Might currently, but was weaker than he was in his prime. "I'm so sorry." "It's okay," Kuro said softly as he put a hand on All Might's shoulder. "At least I can use this power for good." "The real problem will be confronting Torino," Nana said, staring at her hands. "I'm not sure if I'm ready to face him yet." "That's okay," Kuro said. "You can talk to him when you're ready. For now, we've all had a long day. Why don't we just enjoy each other's company? We can talk about training the young man later." The two wielders of One for All nodded. Nothing was happening right now. They can relax for the time being, and they were going to need it. Kuro groaned as he put another piece of paper in a large stack. Why did having interns require so much paperwork? He scribbled his signature on another piece of paper and groaned again as he put his head on the desk. "Hey, Kuro," Nana called from another room. She agreed to live with him temporarily until she got her ID sorted out. She had her license, but they were still coming up with a cover story for her disappearance. "Can you come over here? I need your help for something." Kuro whined internally as he stood up, cracking his back as he dragged himself over to where the voice came from. To his surprise, he saw Eri and Nana in a messed up kitchen, chocolate smeared on the walls and the counter. Papa. Iri bounded over to her adopted father, holding a tray of surprisingly well-baked assortment of chocolate sweets. Auntie and I saw you sad, so we made you something to make you happy. Kiro plucked the plate from the girl's hands, smiling gingerly at it. He then pulled both of them into a hug, tears forming in his eyes. He wasn't alone anymore, and to him, that meant everything. I'll take him, 𝐸𝐻𝐻 said through the phone to 𝐸𝐻𝐷. Might as well teach him a little bit. That's fine, 𝐸𝐻𝐷 said. 𝐸𝐻𝐻 realized his normal stutter wasn't there. There is someone who wants to help you, though. I don't need help, 𝐸𝐻𝐻 scoffed. Who would want to help me with something like this anyways? I think it would be in your best interest to hear her out, 𝐸𝐻𝐷 responded. Fine, put her on the line, 𝐸𝐻𝐻 scoffed. Are you sure you're ready? 𝐸𝐻𝐷 asked. The tone was muted, so he assumed 𝐸𝐻𝐷 was talking to whatever woman he was talking about. There was an indistinguishable chatter. Then 𝐸𝐻𝐷 handed the phone over. Hey, Sora-kun, an all-too-familiar voice spoke through the phone. Who the fuck is this? 𝐸𝐻𝐻 demanded. She was dead. She had to be. It's really me, Nana responded calmly. I'm still trying to understand all of it, really. But I really want to see you. I miss you, Tsuruhiko. You miss me, 𝐸𝐻𝐻 choked. The logical side of his brain was screaming in protest. But the sheer amount of emotions flooding through the elderly man was more than enough to drown it out. You better come visit soon, dork. Me? Who are you picking, Akin? Toga asked, poking Ochako's cheek. Stop that, Ochako pouted as she took a step back. I'm going to be interning with Gunhead. Wow, Toga said, marking her paper. He requested for me too. I'll go with you. What? Ochako's face turned pink as she flailed her arms wildly. You can't do that. Why not? Toga put her index finger on her cheek innocently. 𝐀𝐦 already packed my blood bags, so I don't have to go with him. Blood bags? Ochako asked curiously. Why would the girl need blood bags? Nothing. 𝐀𝐻𝐻 practically appeared behind Toga, putting a hand over her mouth. I told you not to talk about that. But 𝐀𝐻𝐻, Akin is my friend, Toga whines. Ochako's face turns red as she hears the news. Still, 𝐀𝐻𝐻 said. Toga pouted and huffed in annoyance. Anyways, I have to dash, 𝐀𝐻𝐻 said before dashing out of the room. Hey guys, Mina shouted. Kiro-san wants me to intern with him. That's so cool, Kirishima said. I'm going to be interning with fourth kind. I'm going to be going with Black Lightning-san too, Ida shouted. Me too, Tokoyami said calmly. Me as well, Shoto said. Kiro-san invited me as well, Momo said. I'm really honored, and I will choose to go with him. That's sick, Kaminari yelled over. I'll be going with you guys as well. I'll be going with Best Jeanist, Kakin yelled. I'll be better than all you assholes. Me, Deku-kun, Ochako walked over to the broccoli head. Who will you be interning with? Kiro-sensei wants me to go with some person named Gran Torino, Izuku replied. He says he can help a lot with my quirk. That's cool, Kirishima said. Your quirk is already super powerful, though. I wonder why Kiro-san wants you to improve it even more. I don't know, Izuku said. Kiro-sensei always looks like he knows something bad is going to happen. He keeps on telling me that I have to get stronger to save everybody. It's a little scary. Huh, Shoto said, walking over to the small group. He does look paranoid a lot. Weird, Izuku mutters to himself, promising himself to ask Kiro about it later. Kiro smirked as he saw the interns lined up before him. From Class 1A, he had selected Kaminari Denkai, Yaoyorozu Momo, Tokoyami Fumikage, Todoroki Shoto, Ashido Mina, Hanta Siro, Hagakure Toru, and Tenya Ida. From Class 1B, he had selected Awase Yosu, Kiruwaro Shihai, Kendo Itsuka, Kodai Yui, Shota Nirnjeki, Tsunotori Pony, and Shiozaki Ibara. From Class 1C, he had selected Mustard and Hitoshi Shinso. Yes, that was a lot of interns, but he knew it was worth it. He knew that he had to prepare for whatever upcoming mayhem would ensue. Soon, his existence as a threat and Nana's survival will leak to All for One, and he will take precautions. He needed to prepare the students for anything if another war were to break out. He wouldn't let them die. All right, I did a lot of paperwork to get you brats under my wing, so we're not going to waste it, 𝐀𝐦 said. As much as I'm sure you're going to want to go on patrol, I have a better idea. Excuse me, Black Lightning-san, 𝐸𝐸 proclaimed loudly while raising his hand. A couple of the students winced, but 𝐀𝐦 nodded to signal 𝐸𝐸 to continue. Why should we not go on patrol, if that's how we're going to get real experience? Oh, you'll get real experience, 𝐀𝐦 said. Now would be the right time for me to introduce you to my assistants, and those who will be aiding me in your teachings, the Vanguard Action Squad. Saying that, 𝐀𝐦 took a marble out of his pocket and threw it behind him, causing it to shatter. As it did, twice, 𝗬𝗵𝗿, Spinner, and Mr. Compressed. I is that twice, the S-class villain. Yotsu managed in shock. Most of the students, save for Mustard, were in a similar state of shock. Ex-villain, 𝗬𝗵𝗿 corrected. We 4-0 𝐀𝐦 a lot. While we were running around, thinking we had no chance of redemption, 𝐀𝐦 saved us and gave us a reason to live. Right now, our reason to fight is to prepare you brats and to beat you all into full-fledged heroes. Got it? The students gulped and nodded. All right, 𝐀𝐦 clapped his hands. The 17 of you will be training with these 4 while I individually call on you so I can learn about you and create a personalized training regimen for all of you. Understood? Hi, sensei, the interns chanted as they prepared for their hellish training. After all, these were villains they were dealing with. A S-class, and a class, a B-class, and a C-class respectively. This wasn't going to be easy. Ah, 𝐸𝐸-kun, 𝐀𝐦 said as 𝐸𝐸 entered the training room. I've been thinking about your quirk. I actually ordered something to help you with your overheating problem. Oh, really, Black Lightning-san? 𝐸𝐸 asked in shock. The number 2 hero was investing time and money into his well-being. You didn't have to. Nonsense, 𝐀𝐦 waved his hand dismissively. Even before I selected you all as interns, I saw all of you as my own students, and if I can, I will do anything to help you better yourselves. 𝐸𝐸 hesitantly nodded as 𝐀𝐦 took out a small device. It was a small cube with a screen and a little nozzle. This is something you can attach to your boots magnetically, he started. It has a built-in thermometer and is programmed to spray liquid nitrogen when the thermometer reaches a certain temperature. That's so simple, yet I think it would work, 𝐸𝐸 said, taking the device as 𝐀𝐦 handed it to him. 𝐀𝐦 fished out another one from his pocket and gave it to 𝐸𝐸 as well. Thank you so much, Black Lightning-san. No problem, 𝐀𝐦 said. Now give 'em hell. Show those villains what it takes to be a real hero. Tokiyomi slightly panicked when he entered the pitch-black room. Maybe he entered the wrong room. Either way, it would be wise to get out before Dark Shadow was let loose. He turned to exit, but right as he did, the door closed behind him. No, he shouted as the complete darkness took over, a signal for Dark Shadow to take over. He tried to fight it, but it was no use. His second half had fully taken over. Dark Shadow, 𝐀𝐻's voice could be heard in the darkness. 𝐀𝐻. Dark Shadow's voice roared in the pitch-black training room as he launched an attack, destroying several machines. What is the meaning of this? I wanted to talk, 𝐀𝐻 said, footsteps approaching the beast. Soon, he put his hand on the beast's shoulder. Look, I know it's hard to control yourself in the dark, and I want to work on that. We'll spend this week working on controlling yourself in the dark, so you and Tokiyomi-kun can work in the darkness as well as the light. Does that sound okay to you? Without responding, Dark Shadow threw an uppercut at 𝐀𝐻. 𝐀𝐻 didn't move, taking this hit. He spit out some blood and smirked. Got that out of your system? No, Dark Shadow mumbled, yet noticeably calmer. Well, that means that we're going to have a long week ahead of us. Holy shit, Ken-𝐬 yelped as she walked in the training room and saw a bruised 𝐀𝐦 wielding 2 hammers that were twice his size, a huge smirk on his face. "Are you okay, Black Lightning-san?" "Please, call me 𝐀𝐻 said calmly, despite his injuries. "Your quirk is Giant Fist, right?" "Why, yeah," Ken-𝐬 said, still slightly concerned for her new mentor's health. "Great," 𝐀𝐻 said, flinging the 2 hammers in front of him, the sheer mass creating a crater in the ground. "Try lifting one of those." Ken-𝐻 silently nodded as she enlarged her hands and wrapped them around one of the handles. She tried to lift it with as much strength as she could muster, but it only barely lifted off the ground. After a little while, she gave up, letting the hammer fall to the ground. "Not bad," 𝐀𝐻 said as the girl sat down, panting. "When you can lift both hammers at the same time, you can keep them." Really?" Ken-𝐻 gawked at the notion. She wasn't sure whether she didn't believe the fact that the pro hero would let her keep them, or the fact that he believed she could even lift one by the end of the week more. "Yeah," 𝐀𝐻 said. "As long as you put your mind to it, you can do it." "Thank you, 𝐀𝐻-sensei." Ken-𝐻 stood up and bowed respectfully as 𝐀𝐻 smiled softly at the girl. "𝐁𝐻-san." Mina bounded into the training room. "What have you been doing in here?" "Ken-𝐻-chan said you were really beat up." 𝐀𝐻 was in the process of putting the hammers away when Mina entered. He turned around, revealing his bruises. "Oh, just stuff and things," he ignored the gawking Mina. "Nothing too much. Anyways, I wanted to work on incorporating your quirk into your fighting." "I already do that well, 𝐀𝐻-san," Mina chirped. "I mean, I want you to incorporate it into an actual fighting style," 𝐀𝐻 said, smirking. Mina paled. She knew the look on his face. It was almost never good. "So I'm going to teach you martial arts." 𝐓𝐻 walked into the training room, tentatively, not knowing what to expect. The villains had been pretty tough on the interns, and she didn't know what to expect from 𝐀𝐻. From what the media portrayed, Black Lightning was a cold and calculating hero who did his work with deadly efficiency, taking down the entire Yakuza single-handedly. "Shiozaki-san," 𝐀𝐻 said as he walked out of the trees, dusting himself. His hoodie now had a few burns on it, along with the bruises. 𝐓𝐻 was surprised that interning with a couple students had wounded the hero this much. Was he secretly a pushover? "From what I saw at the sports festival, you seem to rely on your quirk a lot. There's nothing wrong with that, but you need to train your physical body as well." 𝐓𝐻 nodded silently as 𝐀𝐻 continued. "You can use your quirk, but only to enhance yourself. Maybe you can create something to help you fight." "Be creative," 𝐀𝐻 said. "Now, let's spar." The kids sat exhausted from the training. "Not bad for a bunch of kids," Spinner commented. "But you need to work on your teamwork. If you keep on flailing your quirks like that, you'll all just end up as dead fakes down the line." "I wouldn't go that far," 𝐀𝐻 said, walking over calmly, despite the bruises, the burns, and the thorns prickling his skin. "You all did well today. Get some rest. I'm bringing in a special guest tomorrow, so you all best be prepared. You have the rest of the day to enjoy yourselves." Dismissed. The interns muttered things under their breath as they tiredly dragged themselves out. 𝐀𝐻 softly smiled at the group. "So, what do you think?" 𝗬𝗲 asked. "What do you mean?" 𝐀𝐻 asked. "I wasn't there." "Don't bullshit me," 𝗬𝗲 sneered. "I saw that weird-ass clone of yours shadowing us as we kicked the crap out of those kids." 𝐀𝐻 chuckled a little bit, leaving a genuine smile on his face. "I think," he started, staring longingly at the windowed sky. "The future is in good hands. Magni, otherwise known as Hikiishi Kenji, knocked out another bandit, taking his wallet." She looked around, ready to escape the scene. "Stealing isn't nice, you know." Magni snapped around to see Black Lightning, the number 2 hero, lighting a cigarette. She instantly attracted him to her so she can smack him with her weapon. Black Lightning stomped the ground with both feet, burying himself to his knees. When that didn't work, he took out a familiar marble and tossed it behind him. causing a gigantic magnet to appear to cancel out the magnetic attraction. "Smoking isn't nice, you know," Magni quipped as she canceled her quirk. "I wouldn't expect a hero to do something so evil." "Hey, everyone's got shit to deal with it, you know?" 𝐬𝐻 shrugged as he took a drag out of his cigarette. "Want one?" "Like I would trust a hero," Magni sneered. "Just take the damn thing." 𝐬𝐻 tossed a cigarette and a lighter to the woman. She huffed and lit it and took a drag. "So what the hell do you want?" Magni asked. "Since you didn't arrest me on the spot, and since you somehow got the trust of Mr. Compress enough to have him lend you your abilities without him being there to make a show himself, you must be here for something else other than that stupid confined occupation you call a job." "Speaking of jobs, I've come here to offer you a job," 𝐬𝐻 shrugged. "Work at my firm? Hell no," Magni cut the man off. "I chose this life to be free. Working as a hero is the exact opposite. There are so many rules and punishments." "You didn't let me finish," 𝐬𝐻 sighed, a puff of smoke coming out of his mouth. "Look, I know how you want your life to be, and frankly, I'm not gonna stop you. I actually joined the hero organization to try and convince them to be a bit more liberal. I've already hired some ex-villains, so you won't be alone. I'm just going to pay you, give you a place to stay, and take your name off villain records to not to bang up the heroes too badly, and come in when I call you. And when I do, I won't tell you how to do your job." Magni thought about it before smirking. She had never seen a hero who treated villains like Black Lightning. She truly appreciated it. He wanted to employ her services, while being cautious to not impede on her freedom too much. It was a win-win. Although he had to take her rights to kill heroes away, he never said anything about killing villains. "Deal." "All right," 𝐬𝐻 smirked as the two shook hands. "So I'm going to need you tomorrow. I'm sure you know where my firm is, after attacking one of my subordinates on his way back. I'll need you there by 10 a.m. Pony rolled out of bed and stretched. The room that 𝐬𝐻 gave the students were very comfortable, and she only had one roommate. She heard from her friend back in America that he had 8 other people in the same room for his internship, so in that sense, she considered herself lucky. "Good morning, Kendo-san," Pony said cheerfully as she saw the other girl drag herself out of bed. "How are you this morning?" "Tired. My arms are killing me," Kino replied, shooting a dirty glance at the huge mallets on the other side of the room. "Your Japanese has gotten a lot better." "Thank you." Pony tilted her head in a slight bow. "𝐬𝐻-san noticed my difficulty in speaking Japanese and offered to let me borrow some books which I have been studying. Did you know he speaks fluent English?" "No. He's a weird one," Kendo said. "He seems strong, and it looks like he has invested a lot of time in finding out our strengths and weaknesses, even if some of us didn't even make it past the first part of the exam. According to Ibara-san, he always holds back and encourages and accepts them. She said he took several hits and complimented her when she started to feel a little down. He always seems kind and cheery towards us, despite letting loose actual villains on us and the injuries he sustained yesterday. I really don't get him." "Oh," Pony exclaimed as the alarm clock in the room went off. "Breakfast is in 30 minutes. We better go, we lose to those stupid bastard students." "Naito," Kendo growled. "I swear I will kill you when we get back." After breakfast, Pony and Kendo made their way to the training field. 𝐬𝐻 and the Vanguard Action Squad, as they called themselves, were waiting for them, with a new person. It was a burly dude with sunglasses and brown, shoulder-length hair. "This, my kawaii interns," 𝐬𝐻 said, gesturing to the man, "is Magni, another ex-villain who so graciously volunteered to help me in training you. I've politely asked her not to injure you all too badly, but if you refer to her as a man, then I can't make any promises." "Damn straight," Magni said as she dropped her cigarette and stomped on it. "You brats better not waste my time." "All right, let's get started," 𝐬𝐻 said. "Tsunotori-san, you're with me." The interns paled as they realized they had another villain to deal with. They groaned as they all prepared to deal with another day of training. So, Pony, 𝐀𝐦 said in fluent English as they entered the separate training room. How have your studies been? It's been going well, Pony replied in English. She was really thankful someone could speak her native language. Even though she has been improving, it was comforting to speak in the language she originally learned. Thank you again for the books, Mr. 𝐀𝐻. It really means a lot. Please, call me 𝐍𝐸, 𝐀𝐻 said. He was much more comfortable with the last name he chose, but for the sake of comfort, he was willing to be called 𝐍𝐸. Anyways, from what I've seen, you've mostly used your quirk to immobilize your enemies. Is that correct? Pony nodded timidly as 𝐀𝐻 calmly approached the girl. He gestured to her horns. May I? She nodded as 𝐀𝐻 plucked her horns off of her head, causing her to squeak a little. Sorry, 𝐀𝐻 said sincerely before walking over to a tree. With a wave of his hand, he slashed the tree with one of her horns, slashing the tree and cutting it down. Pony gazed at him in awe. She didn't know her horns were capable of doing such a thing. Your horns are really durable, he said. You're a smart girl. Let's try to think up of some more ways to use your horns. 𝐬𝐻 walked into the training room and noticed that 𝐀𝐻 had changed his original outfit from black to orange, and he dyed his hair blonde while wearing blue contacts. 𝐬𝐻's step instantly pressed with caution as he realized that 𝐀𝐻 was aware of how his quirk worked. Ah, 𝐀𝐻-san, 𝐀𝐻 said, smiling at the boy. It's a shame that Kuromi-san didn't come with us as well. I would have really liked to see what would have happened. What? 𝐬𝐻 sputtered, completely off guard. He had planned on acting a bit more buddy-buddy and cheery towards the hero to surprise him, but he did not expect the man to bring up his crush like that. First lesson, 𝐀𝐻 said thoughtfully. Always be prepared as if your opponent knows everything about you. 𝐬𝐻 grimaced. He was beaten at his own game. Life's but a walking shadow, he muttered to himself. So, what are you going to teach me? Ah, Shakespeare, 𝐀𝐻 nodded. Not bad. Anyways, after analyzing your abilities for a little while, I've determined that your tactical mind is already enough in combat. Since you aspire to be an underground hero, I won't force you to do 1,000 sit-ups or whatever. I thought I would spend this time teaching you a much more valuable lesson. And that is? 𝐬𝐻 asked tentatively. Black Lightning was a total enigma. He thought he had researched all he could, but it seemed that 𝐀𝐻 was more deceitful individual than even 𝐬𝐻 himself, managing to fool the entire country into thinking that he was a calculating hero who cared only about results. How to talk to girls, 𝐀𝐻 said, smirking. As if on cue, Maruko hopped over to 𝐀𝐻. I swear if you use me like this again, I'll kill you, Maruko grumbled. The way to dusty death, 𝐬𝐻 sighed as he prepared for the torture about to be ensued. Shota Nyaranjeki walked into the training field, confident that he could impress the number 2 hero with his skills. He was a very competent fighter and ready to take on whatever 𝐀𝐻 had. His friend Ida said that 𝐀𝐻 was immediately able to deduce his shortcomings and found a way to solve them, though 𝐀𝐻 had spent a lot of time loitering around Class 1A. Shota-san, 𝐀𝐻 said, back in his normal uniform. I have to say, I'm quite impressed with the way you were dealing with the squad. It was nothing, Shota started. They still consistently wiped the floor with all of us without even trying. Don't beat yourself up about it, 𝐀𝐻 said, waving his hand. Some of these villains have spent decades in the field. Don't tell anyone else I've said this, but you guys are probably strong enough to take low-class villains and thugs on your own already. Are really? Shota asked the man. Of course. I would never lie about something like that, 𝐀𝐻 lied. Of course he was lying. The students were already much stronger than that. Anyways, your use of your quirk is very impressive, though I think I have a way of improving it. How so? Shota asked. His quirk was extremely strong, and Shota thought he had already mastered it. Are you aware what a feint is? 𝐀𝐻 asked. Shota nodded his head. So I was thinking that you can attack someone, but your impact would strike in a completely different area. That's a really good idea, Shota said, thinking about the possibilities. Thank you, Kiro-sensei. No problem, Kiro said. Now, let's start working on that feint technique, shall we? Shoto didn't know what to expect when the ex-villain known as 𝗬𝗲𝗍 came along with him. As they entered the training room, Kiro was sitting on a large stone, munching on some cookies. Oh, hey Shokun. I told you not to call me that, Shoto scoffed and gestured at 𝗬𝗲𝗍. What's he doing here? Oh, he's going to teach you, Kiro said. He could do a way better job than me. Really? Shoto asked in disbelief. I doubt it. I wouldn't if I were you, bro, 𝗬𝗲𝗍 said. At that, Shoto's face paled as the realization slowly started to sink in. Tauya? Meanwhile, Izuku got off the train and headed towards the house marked on his phone's GPS. When he arrived at the place, he knocked. No answer. I'm coming in, he said as he pushed the door open. What he saw was a short, old man, laying on the floor in a pool of his own blood. He's dead, he shouted at the top of his lungs, almost dropping his phone. Ah. The old man looked up and stared Izuku in the eye. Who are you? He's alive, Izuku shouted in shock. Sora-kun, you need to stop doing that. A woman's voice could be heard as the door at the end of the room opened, revealing a tall woman with a black and white hero costume. You're Midoriya Izuku, right? All Might told us about you. All Might did? Izuku asked. Why is that? Ah, let us introduce ourselves, the woman said. My name is Shimura Nana, and this is Torino Sorahiko. We're All Might's teachers. It was mid-afternoon when the harsh training ended. The Vanguard Action Squad jumped back as Kuro came back with Shoto and 𝗬𝗲𝗍. You all did pretty well, he started. I'm going to end off this course today because we're going to be doing something different tomorrow. What could that be? Ida asked. Well, I have some important business down at Hasu, Kuro said, smirking. So tomorrow, we're going to go patrolling. Yui woke up that morning feeling refreshed and relaxed. For the most part, she liked the internship so far. Although the squad was very tough on them, they offered advice and taught them how to get better. She didn't know how Kuro was, but Kendo and Ibara said he was really nice. She did, however, have a high opinion of Kuro because he kept the kitchen stocked with the best tomatoes that she has ever tasted. Morning, Yui-chan. Yui heard Ibara speak as she brushed her hair. Yui responded happily before stretching a bit. You seem to be in a good mood, Ibara said, her expression softening. That's great to hear. I'm glad you're enjoying the internships. Yui responded as she prepared to get ready for the day. Kuro was sitting in his office in his firm, which was substantially cleaner than the office at UA. His eyes were darting between a box of cigarettes and the bag of cookies 𝐀𝐦 had driven over to give him. I can fight a lot of things, but I can't fight addiction, he grumbled to himself as he tossed the cigarettes behind his back and started to open the bag of cookies. As he munched on his cookies, his phone started to ring. I swear to whatever god that is out there, the person who interrupts my cookie time will... He looked at the phone and saw the person. Oh, never mind. You asked for me? Gunhead's voice came out of the phone as Kuro answered it. Oh yeah, Kuro said. One of your interns signed a contract with me a while ago. I need to borrow her today. Is that a problem? Which one? Gunhead asked. Himiko Toga, Kuro said. Oh thank God, Kuro had Gunhead mutter under his breath. What did she do now? Kuro asked. Her and another intern, Yuriroka Ochako, have been having competitions during sparring classes to see who can beat more interns, Gunhead said. Let's just say it's not pleasant. Ah, that's so like them, Kuro chuckled. Actually, if Yuriroka-san can come as well, that would be great. You'd be doing my interns a favor, Gunhead said, a hint of relief in his voice. That's nice to hear, Kuro said before hanging up. He scrolled through his contacts before settling on the next person he had to call. Shimura Nana. Akin. Toga shook her roommate awake. Me, Akin. Himi-chan, I'm trying to sleep, 𝐻𝐡𝐚𝐭 grumbled, still half asleep. Gunhead-sen said that I can take you with me to see 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐭 Toga squealed. Why are you going to see 𝐀𝐦-san? 𝐻𝐡𝐚𝐭 asked, giving up on falling back asleep as she rubbed her eyes. He said that he needs me for a super important mission in Hasu. Toga chirped excitedly, trying to drag her friend out of bed. Why does he need you? 𝐻𝐡𝐭 asked her. Can't he just have some pro do it? 𝐀𝐦 said I'm not allowed to talk about it to anyone, Toga admitted, slightly saddened. But I'm sure he'll tell you if you ask. All right. 𝐻𝐡𝐭 stretched her arms and yawned before standing up. I guess I have no choice in the matter. Midoriya-kun, Nana called over from the kitchen. Coming, Izuku called back before showing himself in the kitchen, wide awake and in his hero costume. Kuro-san said he wants us to come with him to patrol at Hasu, Nana said. Something about a know-something. Izuku stared at her, trying to determine what the mysterious thing was. All right, he said. If Kuro asks, then it must be for a reason. Yeah, Torino said as he entered the kitchen. One thing I've learned about the brat is that he only sticks his nose in when it's important. Now that you think about it, Izuku said. He has always been around at times when bad things were happen, like at Osji and the Yakuza incident. A hero needs to have a good intuition, Nana said, shifting uncomfortably. Anyways, we should be preparing. We're going to make rounds here before we go to Hasu. Kuro wanted us to come late afternoon, after all. 𝗵𝗲𝗿, Toga squealed as she tackled her brother in arms. 𝗵𝗲𝗿 groaned to himself and patted the girl's head. Wait, I recognize you, 𝐻𝐡𝐭 said, tensing up and preparing for a fight. You're a rank villain. Get your hands off my friend. Relax, 𝗵𝗲𝗿 grumbled, lifting the girl up and setting her down. Toga turned to face her friend. Aakin, this is my big brother 𝗵𝗲𝗿, Toga said. We used to be villains together. Isn't that cool? Oh, so this is the girlfriend you were mentioning before? 𝗵𝗲𝗿 asked. Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. It would be in your best interest to treat 𝐴𝐬 well. What? 𝐻𝐡𝐭 took a step back in shock, her face red. Girlfriend? And you were a villain. Knowing her, she probably means friend that happens to be a girl. The three turned to see Kuro with the rest of the squad and the interns. Anyways, I'm sure you have questions, Uraraka-san. Himi-chan is a villain, 𝐻𝐡𝐭 asked. Why is she at UA? And did you know about this? Was a villain, 𝗵𝗿𝗿 corrected. Yeah, Kuro said. You remember when I mentioned she had a rough childhood? Yeah, she was practically thrust into villainy. I won't be the one to tell you the details, though. After I took 𝐴𝐬-san and 𝗵𝗿𝗿 into my care, I offered 𝐴𝐬-san a spot in UA. I wanted to go to school and make friends, Toga chirped, hugging 𝐻𝐡𝐭. And now I have you. I'm really happy that 𝐀𝐦 let me go here because I met you and everyone. 𝐻𝐡𝐭 blushed, opening her mouth to say something before stopping herself, a sweet smile forming on her lips. I'm really happy to have met you too, Himi-chan. That's all well and good, Magni butted in, bringing everyone's attention to her. But when are we going to start doing stuff? Fine, Kuro said. The final group just got here anyways. As if on cue, Nana floated down as Izuku and Torino jumped down from a tall building. Izu-kun, Toga squealed, attempting to tackle the boy, but 𝗵𝗿𝗿 held her back. Not the time, 𝗵𝗿𝗿 warned. Toga pouted, but thankfully didn't attack him. We're going to be in groups of 3, Kuro said. Each member of the squad will be accompanied by 2 interns. Since there's an odd number, one of you will take 3. 𝗵𝗿𝗿, Toga, Magni, Spinner, Twice, and Mustard. Come up to pick your interns. Nana, Torino, and Izuku will be one group. I'll be taking Shoto and Tena-san. Wait, Shinso said, putting his hands up. You said Mustard? Yeah, Mustard butted in. I'm a part of the squad. You have a problem with that? Tell me the truth, Shinso said, using his quirk. Are you a part of the squad? Yes, Mustard said, a dull tone in his voice. Geez, 𝗀𝐸 said, releasing his quirk in shock. If you're done with your mind games, I'd like to do my job, Mustard grumbled. 𝗀𝐸 silently nodded as the group began to pick their interns. Izuku walked around with Nana and Torino as they did their evening patrols. Kuro had given all members of the squad as well as Nana and Torino communications devices so they could all stay connected. Suddenly, there was a loud crash, and Izuku froze up as a creature eerily similar to the creature at the 𝐬𝐡𝐚𝐭 approached them. They all got into a fighting position. As they prepared to attack, Izuku heard a scream from an alleyway not too far from him. I heard someone else in trouble, Izuku shouted at the two. I'll go check it out. Midoriya, wait, Nana called. But Izuku had already dashed away. Kuro was right. He is a real handful. The two heroes faced the monster and prepared to fight. Kuro received memories from his illusion clone as he fiddled with his phone. He looked up to see a Namu flying in the sky. Excuse me, Kuro-sensei? Shoto got the man's attention. We have reason to believe Midoriya-san is in trouble. Can we go to this alleyway? Kuro looked at the spot Shoto was pointing out on his phone and suppressed a smile. He had snuck into the two's room the night before and added his phone number to their contacts under Izuku's name. He knew that it wasn't morally right, but he couldn't take any risks, considering how much he changed the timeline. So he did what he had to do. He looked up at the Namu. You two go on ahead. I have a villain to take care of. Before the two interns could react, Kuro jumped into the sky, tackling the Namu and sending the two spiraling into the city. Ida and Shoto looked at each other before nodding and dashing off to save their friend. Izuku turned the corner to see a pro hero, native as Izuku recognized, about to be struck down by the hero killer Stain. Izuku, without thinking, went into 5% and kicked the hero killer in the face, sending him flying to the ground. Are you okay? Izuku asked. Can you move? Can't move, native managed. His quirk, run. A kid, huh? Stain asked, wiping his cheek. You should go. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. Izuku looked into Stain's eyes, not showing vengeance of fear, but a fiery determination. I will not, Izuku said sternly, getting into a fighting stance. If I see someone in danger, I will save them, no matter the cost. I am a hero, and that is what we do. I like your eyes, Stain said, licking the blade of his katana clean before getting into a fighting stance himself. But you're getting in the way, and as such, I can't let you live. The two dashed at each other, Izuku at 10%. They traded blows for a while, Izuku keeping up at a surprising pace. Stain then managed to get a small cut on Izuku's cheek, and before the boy could land a hit, he licked the blade and swallowed his blood. What? Izuku's fist was barely an inch from Stain's face before he froze up, his body not moving. You fight good, kid, Stain said, raising his katana. If you stayed put for a few more years, I may have considered you a true hero, but as it is now, you have to die. Not if I can help it. A new voice appeared as a familiar boot went for Stain, who dodged it, jumping back a few feet. Tenya-san, Izuku called. What are you doing here? He's not alone, Shoto said as he slid across his ice to stand next to Tenya. You really need to be more specific with your messages. What message? Izuku asked the two, a confused look on his face. Never mind that for now, Ida said, turning to Stain. Can you move? No, Izuku responded. I think it's his quirk. As soon as he licked his blade, I wasn't able to move. Shoto looked at the scar on Izuku's cheek and nodded. It must be that when he ingests blood, he can immobilize the person who the blood belonged to. TSH, more brats, Stain sneered. No matter, I'll kill you all. Stain and Ida dashed at each other. But before Stain could slash at the boy, Ida jumped as Shoto made a pillar of ice next to him. Ida kicked off it, dashing to the side. Shoto created an ice pillar between Ida and Stain, and Ida kicked it, causing the ice to shatter and launch towards Stain. The hero killer managed to jump back, but now without sustaining some injuries. "Not bad," Stain said as he pulled his arm back. Suddenly, a kunai flung back, cutting Iida's neck on its way back. Izuku's eyes widened in shock, but then noticed that the kunai was tied to a string. Iida dashed for the hero killer, but Stain got to his blade first. He licked his blade, causing the boy to stumble, immobilized. But not good enough. Shoto then dashed forward, fire streaming through his side. He swung at Stain, using his fire to extend his strike. Stain jumped back and threw a kunai at him. Shoto dodged and cut the string on it with an icicle. "Won't fall for that trick twice. At least you fakes aren't all the same," Stain sneered. He launched towards Shoto and launched a flurry of attacks. Stain was surprised by how well the ranged fighter was performing in hand-to-hand combat. But he still wasn't as good as Izuku. Stain eventually managed to land a few cuts before licking his katana, immobilizing the last of his resistance. "It's such a shame that such a promising generation is led by fakes," Stain said, raising his katana to finish Stain. As he swung it, Izuku felt himself be freed and dashed, pushing aside his friend and taking the hit, lodging the katana on his shoulder. "Don't tell me." Stain's eyes widened in shock as Izuku prepared to punch him with 15% power. "Your blood type is O." Izuku didn't answer as he punched Stain in the gut, sending him flying out of the alley. "Why did you do that?" Shoto asked. "Why did you take the hit for me?" Izuku turned around and managed a weak smile. "Because that's what heroes do." "Interesting," Stain muttered as he forced himself to stand. Izuku looked in horror as the hero killer pointed a weak finger at him. "What's your name?" "Midoriya." "Don't," Iida said. But Izuku ignored him. He had just engaged in a fierce combat with a hero killer, and Izuku believed that he should honor the hero killer's request in the name of a good battle. Kuro had taught him that warriors would ask the name of their opponents as a sign of respect, and Izuku had no reason to deny Stain that gesture. "Deku." Kuro tightened his grip, crushing the skull of the second Namu. He had gotten word that Nana and Torino had taken out the last one, but Izuku was nowhere to be seen. Kuro had already sent for the police, but he figured the fight would be almost over, so he should go himself. Since Endeavor wasn't around, he should be the one to take his place. "Do you think that I'd let fakes like you kill me?" A wave of killer intent washed over Kuro as he saw Stain yell at the police. He then saw the Shoto and Iida supporting Native and Izuku, who had a large gash on his shoulder. But thankfully, he didn't overuse his quirk. "The only ones who I will let kill me are All Might, Black Lightning, and Deku." The wave lasted for a good few seconds, though Kuro probably figured it would last longer. As it subsided, he heard one of the cops speak. He passed out. "I hope I wasn't wrong about you, Deku." Stain's last words rang in Kuro's head. During the second year of the war, Kuro was almost killed by Shigaraki, but Stain had jumped in at the last second, taking the hit for the time traveler. "Thank you, Chizon," Kuro whispered before he started to approach the group. "We won't let you down this time. I swear it."